welcome to the 383rd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30, sometimes 30 to 45 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. I have been doing some Amazing Spider-Mans from the John Romita Sr., Stan Lee era. I've done a bunch of Marvel's What Ifs from the early 80s, late 70s. I've done some Off My Mind topics, and I think I'm going to do another Off My Mind topic this week. I have the one I've been kind of like hinting at, talking about. I think I'm just going to do it. It's time. Let's just do that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or three. And that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. As an alternative to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, you can also go to my Patreon, and you can buy individual episodes. I only have a handful up there now, some of the Off My Minds, and I put them at the same price as the coffee, so $3 an episode, provided you're not downloading or not buying it off the iOS app. So I've mentioned this before. If you just go to like random, the regular browser, and you go to patreon.com/gmanfromheck and go to the shop tab, you'll be able to find some podcasts, and you can, get them there, support the show and all that stuff, and hopefully be entertained. So with this week's episode, Happy New Year, if you celebrate the New Year, depending on what calendar you're looking at. So we're still here, still 383 weeks in a row, still doing this. This last week was a little hectic. So as you're probably aware, as I teach, I did not have class last week. But with all the family activities, running to this house or that house, and just spending time with family and stuff like that, so it was a little difficult trying to cram everything in, trying to still watch the shows, and so what is not going to be covered this week is Squid Games. So I have not even checked out a single episode of that. So hopefully next week's we'll be able to do some of it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to watch the whole thing, but we have that to look forward to. So it gives you a chance to watch some episodes as well. And knowing my history, my whatever, I probably will only cover a couple episodes, if that, and we'll see how it goes. But I think I've heard good things about it so far. The movie feature is Nosferatu. I always say, is it Nosferatu? I think it's Nosferatu, right? I should know that. So we can hear about that movie. How is that? We have the Doctor Who Christmas special, the 2024 Christmas special. Interesting episode, so we'll talk about that. Then we have more Silo. I'm loving that show. We have Skeleton Crew. We have Creature Commandos, comic books, and some news. The first thing I guess I'll start with, not really news, but kind of news. The first 8 minutes of Severance Season 2, Episode 1 are now available on Apple TV+. So you can check that out. And I debated when I heard about that. Actually, I got a notification on my phone. I think it was like Monday or something like that. It's like, I was like, oh, cool. They dropped, and I just glanced at it, and I saw, maybe it didn't even register, but I thought it said Silo. I was like, oh, cool. I can watch Silo early instead of watching it Thursday, Friday, because of the holidays. Maybe I can try to get a jump on it, and it wouldn't have helped me anyways. And but then I was like, I went to the Apple page, and I was like, wait, Silo's not up. And then I was like, what? And then I think I might have looked up the notification on my phone, and it's like Severance, and there's like 8 minutes of Severance. I was like, oh, Severance. And then I was like, oh, Severance. So I watched it, and I won't spoil it yet in case you are waiting to watch it. And I know that might sound kind of silly, because you're like, Tony, you spoiled all the TV episodes each time you talk about them. But that is under the assumption that you may or may not have watched it already, or aren't planning on watching, just want to hear about it. But because Severance hasn't officially started yet, it doesn't make sense to put spoiler warning here in the news. I'll just say that it was cool. I'm not even going to hint anything. I don't even want to talk about it. Check it out. 8 minutes, and it's I can't wait for that show to come back. What we are going to also have to wait for is the Batman 2. The Batman Part 2. So now it looks like it's being delayed until October 2027. Holy criminy. It feels like so long. Because when did the first Batman come out? Man, was it 2022? I don't know if that's right. But, and the reason why, so James Gunn, he did talk about it, how, Matt Reeves is working on a script. And, their big thing is, James Gunn saying that, no movie's going to be greenlit until the script is ready. And that makes sense. They're not going to start doing anything because then things fall apart. They want to make sure they have a really good script, make sure they know what they're going to do, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, and he's also saying, with the movie, there's basically like a 2-year cycle because, you have to do the pre-production and then the filming, shooting all that stuff, and then post-production, everything. So he says they're looking at like a 2-year window for all that to happen. And, he says, I don't know if I mentioned it, but Matt Reeves he says he's working on making like the best film that he can. And that's fine. Yeah, because, you don't want to rush it. You don't want to be, okay, well, just write something down and we'll do that. Because even though it's Batman, and it's it's not like rocket science, but because we've had so many Batman movies, you got to do something cool, and you don't want to just go through the motions. So I'm glad that they're taking pride. Matt Reeves is taking pride in and putting in effort and not just winging it just to get it done. We'll have to wait for that, which it's a bummer, but it'll be worth the wait. I'm assuming. Brave and the Bold, the Batman movies, also postponed a bit. I wasn't really clear why in this, and I don't know if it's a script thing, but I think I saw that the director, so Andy Muschietti, something like that, he's the guy who directed The Flash, one of James Gunn's favorite movies of all time, apparently. He said that I think he mentioned that there's like some delay, and he's actually working on some sci-fi movie that, he's like something else is going to come out before the Batman. And part of it also is, I'm assuming they don't want to do all these movies at once. So, we got Superman wrapping up, that's probably almost finished, got to do the finishing post-production and that. Then they're going to be working on Supergirl. And then we know that the Clayface is coming out. So I'm assuming, even though there's different directors, it's not like James Gunn is like hands-on all of them. I'm assuming, I don't know if some of the same crew is used, some of the DC studios, whoever they have. And I don't know if like a director is like, I have my own crew or something like that. But I wonder how that does work. If you're going to make a movie for Warner Brothers, are you using like Warner Brothers, like Best Grip or Grip, whatever those, just all these different production people, or do you just because that's a lot of people to hire, and that's going to take forever. Obviously, you have other people that have to do that. So it might be easier, just like, okay, here's a picture of Paramount. We have all these established people that can do this. And then I'm sure, you have the final say where you're like, wait, this guy's only done one movie. He's going to be doing the lighting. No, or maybe the other things you take prior. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah. So I guess Brave and Bold, we're going to have to wait on that. I still think it's interesting that if this is going to be like the first Batman in the DCU, and we're going to have Batman and Damian already. So they're just like jumping forward to that, which is fine. But then that means, is Dick Grayson Nightwing out there? Are we going to like jump straight to a Nightwing movie maybe at some point? But what about Jason Todd? What about Tim Drake? Is all that stuff just, we're not going to see that? And then, the other question people are like, why is Clayface going to be the third movie in the DCU? I think someone asked James Gunn on Threads or somewhere, or like, why aren't you doing like a more prominent character? And that does make sense. You're trying to establish this new DC cinematic universe type of thing. You're starting off with Superman, and we're seeing all these, Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl. We're seeing all these other people existing already. And then what's going to be, after Supergirl, Clayface? And it's like, what? And hopefully they're going to learn something from the Sony villain movies, where it's like, you're doing a movie about a villain. Although, you could say, well, Joker was successful, the first one. But anyways, the reason Clayface is happening is, again, because of James Gunn's number one rule: the script is ready. So they greenlit it, and that I guess they're not worried about like, oh, we have this big timeline. It's not like the Marvel map where you have to do this movie, then this movie, this movie. It's just like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. And I think James Gunn said something about, because what's his name, Flanagan. I think he's doing the script and directing. I think he's directing, but I guess he did the first script, and they're like, "Wow, this is good." And then he Flanagan did like a revision, like the second script, and he's like, "Well, this is even better." And it was like, I guess maybe he was just fast, and it's just he maybe had been thinking, I don't know, but it's done, so they're gonna start working on that. Which, okay, I think I don't know. I'm not sure what to. We'll see. Okay, Clayface movie. What are you going to do with that? Creature Commandos. It's been. Was this last week's news or this week's news? It's been greenlit for season 2. Of course it has. So here's the thing about Creature Commandos. I'm a week behind, and this week we're going to talk about episode 4. I do like the show. I like the characters. I don't love the characters. I can't say that there's anyone that I really care about. Rick Flag Sr., I find, especially in this week's episode, in episode 4, I found him incredibly annoying. So get ready for that when I talk about the episode. I wish Joel Kinnaman, Rick Flag Jr. was still around, because I just found him so much more interesting. So we got Rick Flag and Frankenstein. He's just incredibly annoying, and I guess he's supposed to be. He's being written that way. But the other characters, there's. We got the Weasel when we'll hear about that. But there's really nothing that I care about, because at least with the movies, you had Harley Quinn, which Margot Robbie is just amazing, and she really brought that character to life, and some of the other, it's just. So we'll see. I just, and then seeing people, some people are like, yeah, I love this show, it's so good and everything like that. I'm like, is it? And I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's just me. It could be just me, and that's fine. But I find that it's great production and everything like that. But for me, because I'm not totally invested in the characters, I don't care. I don't go crazy. I can't go crazy because I don't care about these characters. And the Weasel story is incredibly tragic, as we'll hear, but still, it's not like I can't wait for the next episode, and then I'm just counting down to seconds till it starts. I'd much rather a character that I like, and it's all about me, right? But we got season 2, so that's great, because it's fine. How about some? How about Star Wars? There's not a whole lot of Star Wars news, but there's I think I don't know if this is a rumor, because it was listed under a rumor or something like that, but then they said that Disney released the budgets for Andor season 1 and 2. I guess both of them combined is almost $650 million. That is crazy. And season 2 apparently is $290.9 million. $290.9 million for the second season. And I think they're saying that's more than the Rise of Skywalker budget. Now, part of that, I believe, is because of the industry strikes. Do we have a director's strike? Was it directors and writers? I don't think, or was it actors? I can't remember. But it's all resolved, thank goodness. And I think it was actors, and I can't think of it. But that put some delays and stuff, and that caused some things. But still, that's a lot. And I guess also you look at it as these are TV shows, so it's not like doing a 2-hour movie, even though sometimes a 2-hour movie can be more expensive. But these aren't they 10-episode seasons, if not more? There wasn't. I don't even remember. But that's a lot. And then the thing you look at, it's you're releasing it for Disney Plus. So it's where's the return? And I guess there's people continuing to subscribe, but I still look at it I've been subscribing since day one, and while maybe I should turn off my subscription, whatever, but I don't, because I'm always watching something every once in a while. I think. But yeah, so it's how are you? I don't know. It's just, how do they make money off of these? And then they could release physical media, which Disney Plus has been doing. And I purchased Hawkeye and Moon Knight. So yeah, that's a lot. I think there's something about the Acolyte, how many seasons would it have been? And I just skimmed this, and I don't know if it was wishful thinking or anything. I don't know if it was what's the dude's name? It was on the tip of my brain. The guy that played the main dude. who everyone's like gaga over. Where I don't know if he was saying it or if it was a showrunner or someone. I think they said that like doing like three seasons in a movie would have been ideal. And I don't know if that's just like wishful thinking or if they actually had it mapped out. That's a lot to map out. I mean, you that's really going gung ho. And hopefully it's just if they had stuff planned out, which is awesome that you're that invested in your project and trying to plan all this stuff out. But hopefully it's just very loose, like outline, like what you could do and not. So I still think it's unfortunate because while that show was not great, there was a lot of cool things in there that I did appreciate, and it was a different era in Star Wars, and I still think a lot of people didn't quite let that sink in or register. People were talking about like, why does it look like this? It's because it's like 200 years, I think, before Phantom Menace. So things are going to look different. Yeah, so who knows? Was it 200 years? I don't remember. I don't remember anything now, man. This has been a long, long week. What else do we have? So Marvel rumors, right? Because there's so many rumors. Anya Taylor-Joy is supposedly Marvel's interested in her for some mystery role. Of course they are. And the same thing I said like on Ana de Armas last week, and I forgot who else. There's someone else that was supposedly being eyed. Sadie, not Fink. You know who I'm talking about. But, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this episode. But, you look at it, well, Marvel, they have to make these great, amazing movies. And, they want to get great, amazing actors. And we've seen so many great, amazing actors cast, play different roles. And some of them maybe are done or whatever. Their stories aren't going this way or that way. So, of course, Disney has to be looking at other characters and how they can try to continue moving forward. Like I said before, if you're going to cast someone like Anya Taylor-Joy, make it a character that matters. Don't just, don't like waste the talent. Give them something, and hopefully, they're willing to commit. I mean, that's the thing. Don't get someone who is only willing and able to do like one movie or one show. Moon Knight, Oscar Isaac. You can't get someone who's so incredibly busy they can't commit or that doesn't want to commit. And so yeah, don't bring in a big name to sell something. You want the name maybe, but you want the talent and you want the commitment. So that's what I have to say. Now, Anya Taylor-Joy, could she be Ileana? I would be down with that if they brought her back as Ileana, which would be so weird, and I don't know what they would do, but I did like her, and I think I've only watched New Mutants once. I do own it. I didn't mind the movie. I didn't think it was like horrible as some people said. So I think there is potential. It was unfortunate how much of a mess it was leading up to it. So who knows? The other bit, I think this is the last bit of news, but the other rumor is Channing Tatum, Gambit, may appear in Avengers 5 or 6. Okay, I mean, if you're doing multiverse and whatever, and maybe it doesn't even matter anymore. So sure, why not? That would be cool for Channing. I know he's down for that, so we'll have to wait and see. And you'll also have to wait and see what else is happening, because that is going to be the news for the week. Okay, now as far as comic books, at Image, there wasn't a whole lot. There's a Creepshow Volume 3, Number 4, and I haven't been reading that, and I say it all the time, where sometimes horror comics just don't work for me. And, it's going to be, I don't know who wrote or drew this one, but I didn't read it. Geiger number 9 came out, and I'm digging this. I'm getting excited because we're getting hints and teases of Jeff Johns kind of bringing his universe together. Each issue that Jeff Johns writes, there's a timeline at the back, and so even though they're taking place at different points in time, you do have like this timeline there. So some of it kind of makes sense. Like a spoiler. We may be seeing Junkyard Joe pretty soon again, and there's someone else teased at the end of this issue of Geiger, which I won't spoil that. Again, that makes sense, makes perfect sense. But with Geiger, it's a hard story because I just feel so bad for Geiger. His family died, and he's infected with this like radioactive stuff, and I feel like he's just trying to get by, and does he want a cure for himself? Because then what's he going to do? Just live a normal life? And there's like people out to get him. So he's got this king dude. He fought the prince before, and now he and the knight, they found some shelter in this small town, this like secret town, but now they got their hands full and they got this fight. And at one point it's like, oh, this doesn't look good for Geiger. So we'll have to see about that. There's also issue Redcoat number 8 came out. And when it first started, it's like, I think it was like 1883. So I was like, oh, we're getting a flashback story? Because I was like, okay, so what's going to happen here? Because I'm trying to think when the last story arc took place, because we saw a young Albert Einstein, but it's like we're in 1883, so it's like, okay, that's fine, because that's like the cool thing about these stories, and maybe in between arcs, give us a flashback story, because we haven't seen everything, and I'm sure there's like so many adventures, because Simon Pure is immortal, so there's a lot of things that may have happened in between. And this one, I don't want to spoil things, but yeah, see, it's just hard. There's this, things kind of get deadly, and he kind of gets caught off guard. He finds himself in a situation with some pretty evil people, I guess we'll say. And I'm totally tiptoeing, because when you first read it, it's like there's no hint of anything, because I don't even know what the synopsis says, but it was just, I really enjoyed this issue. And so for like a one shot, like, whether it's considered filler or not, I really enjoyed, I thought this was a good issue for just, just boom, boom, in and out, just here's a story. So check that out. G.I. Joe Real American Hero 312. So now, you may remember, I don't remember if I read issue 311. And I'm not I look up, where's my comics? I could see, did I read that or not? But with this, because it starts off where like Destro and Serpentor are fighting. So that makes me feel like I don't remember them arriving. We got this big battle going on in Springfield, and pretty much like everyone's there. Cobra's there, and he's got this like decoy in a battle suit out like fighting, claiming to be him, like doing all these awesome, amazing things, leading the armies, while he's actually hiding in a bunker, because that's what Cobra does. We got Serpentor, Zombie Serpentor, and Zombie Dr. Mindbender. They're there. We got Destro there. We got the Joes there. And we're seeing some strange alliances, because Baroness was shot. Now, who shot her? Was it Cobra? And Zartan was like kind of saving her. So they managed to get her to a hospital, and the ninjas, Snake Eyes and Scarlet and Storm Shadow and all of them, they're there. And so we have all these people fighting, and Destro's just like, get out of my way type of thing. So Destro's really stepping up, doing some cool things, and he's not happy with Cobra, so we got some cool things to look forward to. The only thing that I have issues with is the fact that Snake Eyes can talk now. It just really seems off, and I don't remember the specific. I still haven't looked it up, and figured out why. Because he was dead for a while. He was gone, and we had this other dude who had some Snake Eyes memories implanted in him or something like that. And he was posing as Snake Eyes, even though he wasn't his name, like John, or I forget what it was. But Snake Eyes is back, and the fact that was he cloned? I don't know why I haven't. I think I just keep forgetting to try to track this out and figure it out, but. He's not scarred anymore, and he can talk, which, maybe it's like, okay, let's throw him a bone. He's gone, 300 issues almost like that. And it just seems weird seeing him like talk and like no one else having any issues with that. They're just so used to it already. That's my only problem. I mean, it's fine. He deserves it, but it's just weird. Other things we had at Image, we had Rogue Sun 24. I am so behind with that. Someday I will get caught up. We had some Spawn stuff. We had Void Rivals 15. I don't even know what's going on in this comic. I know it's supposed to be part of the Energon universe. I don't even know what I'm missing because I'm so far behind. I don't want to just like, oh, issue 15, I'll just jump in here. I could just do that. Maybe I should just do that. But yeah, every month is like, oh, there's another issue. But because I haven't read issue 3 or 4 or whatever, I don't want to read this. And I don't know realistically, when am I ever going to get around to reading it? So yeah, maybe I should at some point. Yeah, there was nothing at Dynamite or Boom or anywhere that I read. But at Marvel, so we have Amazing Spider-Man 64. And again... So I looked up, so this is written by Justina Ireland. Gleb Melnikov does the art. So the thing is, because I was a little confused. I was like, wait, why is Justina Ireland writing? I thought it was Joe Casey. But I went back and I looked at the press release for the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, or whatever this is called. And it was listed like, Joe Kelly. But Justina Ireland was listed in that. So this was, because I was like, wait, he just did like 2 issues already? And because they've also announced that he's going to be like the new creative team. But I was like, wait, I thought he was already announced. I'm confused with that. But regardless, we have the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So Dr. Doom, who has kind of stolen the position of Sorcerer Supreme, he went to Spider-Man and is like, you were going to be the new champion or whatever. You have to do you have to fight these 8 demons or whatever in order to save all mankind or whatever. And he's like, what? Because normally Doctor Strange did that. And I still wonder, I feel like I forgot. Does Doctor Strange have his body? Because every time we see him, it's always his astral form. It's like, what the heck is he doing that he can't bother, make a in-person appearance? Also, it's like, if he's doing something else, how can he split his consciousness into whatever he's doing physically and to whatever his astral form is doing? I don't understand how magic, I guess, right? That's just the answer. But Spider-Man is, having to do magic. He's got this magic armor and he's got these 8 reeds, these things that, so he can die and then he can get, reborn. And he has to fight these things. And I think he's died 3 times, 2 or 3 times already. And he's like, he asked Doctor, he's like, how can I do this without dying? And Doctor Strange's like, well, that's kind of the point of having the reeds or whatever. So it's like, you can come back. And he's like, no, I don't want to die. It's, it's not a pleasant experience because, you got the pain of the death and then just whatever in between and coming back. And Doctor Strange's like, well, that's just how it is type of thing. That sucks for Spider-Man. And the other thing that, he's starting to build this relationship. He's got this new girlfriend, which it's hard for me to get on board with it because, I'm all about Spider-Man and Mary Jane. But Mary Jane is still with Paul. And thank goodness we haven't been seeing Paul lately. Thank goodness. And so Spider-Man's in this new relationship. What's her name? Shay? See, I don't even know what her name is. Is it Shay? It's not Michelle. I think I don't even remember. But she worked at the Ravencroft Institute. And she was like a nurse, I think. And it's, the thing is with this task, this magic task that Spider-Man's doing, these demons just come and challenge him whenever they want. So there's times where he's having to like make a quick getaway, and the fact that he can't just explain that, and he's just looking like a big flake, and that's like the problem with Peter being, that's why it sucks for him to be Spider-Man, because he's constantly making these sacrifices for everyone else, and he gets no reward. Action or whatever is his reward. Right? So we have that. But the thing, while I'm not gung-ho about the story arc, it seems kind of silly. And these demons things are annoying as they're supposed to be. But the thing that I do like about this, that I will, applaud or whatever, is one, it's better than some of the stuff we've seen recently, especially like the King Chasm, all that limbo stuff. But what I like about this is it is something different. I mean, Spider-Man magic, it's not something you expect. And I'm trying to think, have we ever seen this before? And, there was that episode of What If in season 1. And I realized I haven't been talking about What If. I think I only watched four or five episodes of What If season 2, and now like season 3 is like almost over. So that's why I haven't been talking about that. I should, but it's time. It's about time. So we did see a Spider-Man Sorcerer Supreme, right? In like the Marvel Zombies or one of the What If universes. But in the comics, this is something different. If you look back at the history, and I love Spider-Man, which is why, on the Secret podcast, I often go back and look, at the old Spider-Man issues. I loved Spider-Man. I grew up, he was one of the first characters I gravitated towards. I probably owned the most Spider-Man comics out of everything because I just would keep, maybe, I don't know about Batman, but that was when I was first started buying comics. I would always go to back issues. I'd get Amazing Spider-Man. I'd get Marvel Tales, which were Amazing Spider-Man reprints. I'd get Spectacular Spider-Man comics. I was just like all these Spider-Man characters because everyone knew who Spider-Man was. And then I slowly started discovering the other characters and so forth. And I remember when I discovered Moon Knight, I was like, who is this? With all the countless Spider-Man stories that we've had over the years, Spider-Man using magic is something that's different. We know this is not going to be a permanent thing. At the end of the story arc, for some reason, he's probably going to forget, or he's not going to be able to. There's going to be some reason why he's no longer able to use magic, I'm assuming. And that's fine. So, we have this story. I'm totally down with that. And it's the same thing like when the Punisher turned into Frankencastle, as an example. People were like, oh, this is horrible. What's going on? It was a story arc. And even, when characters like this Spider-Man wearing the symbiote costume, that wasn't a permanent thing. You do these big drastic things. That's a little different. But, you make these big changes. It always reverts back to the status quo. Spider-Man will be back to his red and blue costume. He will be back to not having magic. So I just think this is kind of neat to see something a little different and just to see how, he handles things. So we have that. And I'm not going to buy it. I'm waiting for the Funko Pop version of this Spider-Man to appear. Okay, we had Blade number 3. This is a Red Band comic, apparently. If you've been reading this, how is it? Because I just have a hard time. My problem with Blade, I think Blade can be a cool character. I still remember, seeing the Wesley Snipes movies, in the beginning. I was like, this is cool. He's a badass and doing all this stuff. I just find him now, he has too much of an attitude that's just kind of a turnoff. And I almost feel like this is me, skeptical Tony, but I sometimes feel like maybe sometimes like, oh, okay, so I'm going to be totally honest. This is how I feel sometimes about it. I was like, well, I have loved Blade. I own the Daywalker sword. I love the movies that much. I bought a replica of the sword. I still have that sword. And maybe I'll post it again on my Instagram because I haven't posted in a while. I bought a replica of the sword, and this was probably like a couple $100. The thing is, I feel like because he's a black character, they're like, let's elevate him. Let's make him, and I feel like the same thing happened with Black Panther. Where was Black Panther for decades? He was always around. When he first came out, he was always doing like these big things, but I feel like he wasn't really getting the spotlight. And then when like the movies came out and all these people are like, I love Black Knight, I love Black Panther. But we're never going to see Black Knight in a movie, are we? And that's a total different thing. But, with Black Panther, people loved the movie and it was so good. And, Chadwick Boseman was amazing, and it's still so insanely tragic that he's no longer with us. But I feel like in the comics, and all of a sudden Black Panther started getting elevated, getting more attention, as maybe he should. But sometimes with Blade, I feel like in order to make him cooler or to make him tougher, to make him more of a badass, they're giving him more of an attitude. And that's where it starts to get annoying. It's like, you don't have to be so rude or sometimes even like angry, because then it starts like venturing into the stereotypes, and we absolutely do not need that. We don't need the angry black man characters. We need the awesome, cool, and sometimes inspirational black characters. And Hispanic, where's my Latino characters? We got a couple, West Coast Avengers. And he wasn't even in the last issue. Living Lightning. What is his name now? I don't even know. I'm not reading Blade. And part of it was when he was all of a sudden Blade's an Avenger. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. He should not be an Avenger. He should, it's just like, Daredevil shouldn't be an Avenger.
Moon Knight, probably not, even though I'm biased because I love Moon Knight and I loved him in West Coast Avengers. But Blade shouldn't have been an Avenger. And then they made him the villain, but he was possessed, blah, I don't even know. So, yeah, I haven't been reading this Blade comic, but maybe it's awesome, and I hope it is. Exceptional X-Men. So this is weird. There's a bit of a jump here because I was waiting. Last issue 3, all of a sudden, and I don't know if I mentioned he appeared, but he pops into like the I think it was at the studio where Kitty and Emma Frost are training these new kid mutants, and then he just like freezes Kitty in a block of ice. I was like, that's kind of a jerky move. It's like, what the heck is that about? And why is he there? So now here, there's none of, and yeah, I guess she could just phase out of it unless she's completely frozen, it caught her off guard maybe, but that's probably what happened. We didn't even see like what happened. All of a sudden it's like, the next day or a couple days later or something like that. And she's like not really happy with him. I mean, there's some awkwardness, and I don't know if it was because they dated, and I barely remember them dating, but they dated, and then Iceman Bobby found out that he was gay because the younger version of him, which was in the present from the past, he realized he was gay. So then Bobby's like, wait, but I'm not gay. Then he's like, oh, I guess I am. Which is weird. But because how could young Iceman know, but then all the time that we've seen, he hasn't known, and then now he just realized. And that's why I always thought it was weird that the young X-Men, which I love that, Brian Michael Bendis, Stuart Immonen, or Dave Marquez, those stories, those were amazing. I loved having a young X-Men in the current. It was brilliant. But I was like, they can't be in the same continuity, but they were. And Marvel just broke their time travel rules, and I'm so off, topic. But Iceman's he's kind of being weird, and Kitty's kind of like on edge, but Kitty's dealing with stuff, which I think I am going to talk about. They do address it here, and that's something I'm going to touch on this week's Secret podcast about some of the trauma and stuff that the characters are going with. So there's your spoiler in the middle of comics. So if you're fast forward, you're not going to know. But I think Kitty needs to address like what happened at the end of the Krakoa storyline. But then we find out that Iceman is up to something, and it's kind of not cool. So, yeah. And then the one mutant that they kind of focus on, Bronze, we kind of get some cool stuff because I don't really care about these new mutants because I'm not invested in them. But I do like the kind of spotlight on her. And then she does appear in another comic later, sort of. We had Hell Hunters #1. What is this? I did not even look at this. So we got, okay, so this looks like it's in the war. We got a Ghost Rider. We got Wolverine, of course, because he's everywhere. And I'm assuming that can't be Bucky Barnes. There's someone with a mask, but he looks like he's wearing red and blue. And it's like Nick Fury. I'm really curious about when this was 1943. Could it have been a young Bucky before he was frozen? I don't even know what's going on, but yes, I'm not going to check that out. We had Iron Man #3. Oh goodness, what can I say about this comic and be gentle? Because I don't want to be rude or disrespectful. Because some people may have loved this comic, and I know people worked hard, and I applaud them for doing this. But this is the Stark-Roxxon War. Part 3. The board at Stark Enterprises International, whatever it's called, they wanted to merge with Roxxon and AIM or something like that. And Tony's like, no, this is not a good thing. But they're like, oh no, this is going to make sense, and we're going to corner the market on everything, and we can do weapons again and energy, and it looks like it's basically happening. And then it turns out, spoiler, I'm going to spoil this, is a secret benefactor. So Dr. Druid is there, and he's working on behalf of someone else. And obviously, I don't even remember. I don't think it was Mephisto, but they end up going to hell. The board gets taken there, and they're like, okay. And it's just so, And Tony Stark's got this old armor because his armor's taken, and yeah, I don't understand. Kidpool and Spider Boy, I don't understand this either. So one thing I discovered, and I don't know if I knew this or not, but apparently, and I don't know if this is the case for the movie, is Kidpool is actually a girl. Because originally, Kidpool in the movie was going to be the kid that was in, what was that movie that Ryan Reynolds was in? With the kid where he played himself from the future or whatever. But then it's also the kid who is in Percy Jackson. But the thing is, I think he grew too much, or he just wasn't available to be in the Deadpool movie. But that Kidpool is a girl? And so somehow Kidpool is here. And this is Kidpool from a different dimension, apparently. Then Kidpool ends up gets hired to target Spider-Man. So Kidpool has no idea who Spider-Man is. And then Spider-Boy's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't do that, type of thing. And yeah, I didn't dig it so much. Moon Knight, Fisakanshu, number 3. I'm liking this. I'm not liking what's happening, if that makes any sense. I love this comic, but the problem is, without spoiling things in case you're trade waiting, which you shouldn't be, but one of the team is kind of taken out of commission, and I'm hoping this is not a permanent thing. But they're Moon Knight and Tigra and all of them. They're kind of having to go on a run, which is kind of neat in a way because it's kind of like, hey, let's strip things back because they've kind of they've kind of had like almost like too many, not really resources, but they've had like a big advantage like with where they're set up, and I'm kind of tiptoeing about what's going on. But we're seeing these other people who are targeting Moon Knight and people being forced to. It's kind of annoying because like the police, they like bust into their place, and because they're being like blackmailed into doing all this, and yeah. But this is I enjoy. I'm so happy. Two things. I'm so happy that we have a Moon Knight comic, and I'm so incredibly happy that it is an amazing Moon Knight comic. That Jed MacKay is just such a great writer, and I worry about the time where he may step away because I feel like he's been writing it for a while, and while someone else could do a really good job, there's some of the other Moon Knight stuff that like the little side things we've been getting. I haven't been loving those so much, so we'll see. I worry. Even though we're like in a heyday right now, things are going great. I'm always like worried that it's going to end. So maybe I'm just wrong. Mystique number 3. I'm digging this. I love what Declan Shelby is doing, and one of the things he's doing, he's making me care about Nick Fury Jr. because I don't care for Nick Fury Jr. I think he's just a big dork. But some cool things happening here, and there's something with Declan's art. And just the way he just does the action and just the detail and stuff like that, it just feels right with all this espionage stuff, and I just like the vibe here in this comic, So there's some cool stuff there. Sabretooth, Dead Don't Talk. I was tempted to read this because Frank Thierry wrote this. I think this is, I don't know if this is gonna be like violent action or whatever, but it's Sabretooth, and Sabretooth is, he's like close to like Carnage. Like I can't stand Sabretooth. I just find him incredibly annoying. I think I don't hate him as much as I hate Carnage, but I just have no interest in Sabretooth whatsoever. Then we have Spider-Boy, issue 14. I started reading this and then I couldn't get through it, and I don't even remember if I think I got to the end, but we have this like big fighting tournament in Madripoor. So Daredevil, he basically tells, because in the past Daredevil had trained Spider-Boy. So then he's like, we have to go on this mission, whatever. He's like, call your mom. So, and one, they're flying in the cargo hold of a plane, which I thought it got like incredibly cold down there or something like that. But what do I know? So he's supposed to have a test like the next day, and he tells his mom, he's like, "Oh, I'm whatever, I'm leaving," and what is it, like a 14-hour flight or something like that? So like how much school is he gonna miss? He's already like in trouble at school because of his attendance or whatever. But then there's this big fighting tournament, and they have to go. And the weird thing about this tournament, because they're going after Bullseye, so Bullseye and who's his like Spider Girl, which isn't really a Spider Girl, but she's posing as Spider, or she's calling herself Spider Girl for reasons. So they're going after Bullseye because if he wins this fight, he can like rule the world or some crazy thing or something like that. But it's weird. All the people in this tournament, they're all like adult fighters with little kid sidekicks, pretty much. That's just weird. Like, what a strange, bizarre coincidence that, why do all these people have little kid sidekicks? I don't understand. And, I still question is like, who is reading this comic? Because if the comic, I believe it's $4.99, right? I'm trying to look at the cover. It's a $4.99 for a comic. And the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, I don't know if they're spending that much money per comic. I mean, maybe if they're doing like Marvel Unlimited, if their parents get them a subscription for that, they can read it, a few months later or whenever. But I don't understand how kids can read comics, how they can afford comics these days, because they're so expensive. And I feel like it's not an inflation thing, because I mean, again, back when I was buying comics, comics were like, 60 cents, 65 cents, 75 cents. And that's still, for like $10, you can get, a decent amount of comics. Now for $10, you get 2 comics. So I feel bad for kids. And then like, $10 for 2 comics, almost like $10, a little more, you can get a trade paperback. So yeah, what's going on? Star Wars, Battle of Jakku, Last Stand. This is new number 1, but it's like the 3rd story arc. This is issue 9 of 12. And I was running out of time, so I started reading it. But the first page, I was like, was there a time jump? Because we see Leia on the cover, and she's pregnant. And that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's Leia, right? Because this was like shortly after the Battle of Endor, and I don't even know if like she and Han got married in the comics. We haven't seen that, so I was a little confused. And I don't know, maybe I'm being silly. Time Slide number 1. So we got Cable and Bishop. This could be interesting. The future of the Marvel Universe revealed. So it's like, okay, you're sounding like you're making a pretty big statement there. So this is written by Steve Fox, with an E. Ivan Fiorelli does the art. Frank DeMarta does the colors. So I was like, okay. But then I started reading it, and one was a time thing, and I just kind of struggle a little bit, like just keeping up with it. But this was, I'm pretty sure this is a comic. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is a comic where Bronze, appeared, but in the future. So that was cool that we have one of the kids from Exceptional X-Men appearing, as an adult. So I like that little thing. So I should probably go back and try to read that. Ultimate Black Panther, number 11. I haven't been reading this. What issue did I just say? Issue 11? Wow. I feel I haven't been reading this, and part of it is just like all the Khonshu stuff. This kind of threw me off, and so I have no idea where that's at, if it's any good. Ultraman and Avengers. I would want to read this. I haven't been able to keep up with that. West Coast Avengers, number 2. And this was interesting. So, without trying to spoil too much, so they go after the bad guys on this ship, and then they end up like in international waters, and they're trying to take them out. Things I can't say. I shouldn't say who won. I can't say that I was crazy about the reveal of the villain. I'm not really quite sure what that's going to mean. So this probably isn't the last that we'll see of this villain, and so I won't spoil it. I'll let you read it and find out, or if you're not, you should read it. And then the fact that we have Ultron here, so we have like a reformed Ultron, and it's not really clear how that happened. But this is something Iron Man, that Tony Stark and Rhodey, James, that they figured out. They did something, and it's like, wait, how is this possible? What's going on? And then, without getting into spoilers, because I really feel like you should be reading this, last issue we saw some stuff, some kind of disturbing stuff with Ultron. It's like, wait, how does this all fall into place? And then more of that is addressed here. So things are just kind of getting crazy. And there's some stuff with Firestar here too. So and Firestar, I'm going to be talking about Firestar in this week's Secret podcast as well, about some of the stuff that she went through. And so yeah, I hope that they're going to address some of these things here, because there's a lot for her to unpack as well. And I love the fact that she's included, that she's going to be here, and that hopefully they will talk about this stuff, because she's not doing so well. Then we have X-Men number 9, Radon Grey Malkin issue 3. Okay, so I think this might explain some things, because maybe it was unfair, but with the last issue of, I don't remember if it was Uncanny, Gail Simone's X-Men, I was like, it seems kind of weird how Cyclops and Rogue are just so at each other's throats. It's like, okay, they have their own X-Men teams, and it's weird how Cyclops has X-Men at their Alaskan base, and Rogue and Gambit and Wolverine, they kind of have an X-Men team, but not official. I guess Nightcrawler's kind of with them too. But it's just weird how they're just like so against each other and everything. But now what may have been happening is they have been maybe we're being influenced to be kind of angry and bitter towards each other. So they're at the Grey Malkin place, which is the prison, which is basically Xavier's mansion. The old school has been turned into a mutant prison, which I still don't understand how that's possible. And Xavier is locked up here, so they just basically go and kidnap mutants and imprison them. So Beast is there, Jubilee's there, and one of the other young kids is there, and so they're trying to bust them out. But Cyclops tells Rogue, he's like, no, we got this. He's like, too many mutants go out there. It's like we're declaring war against humankind or whatever. But she's like, well, screw it, I'm going. So they're just fighting. And so yeah, if they were being influenced, that kind of makes sense a bit. But it's a little uncomfortable. But there's some cool moments here. So I did enjoy that issue.
At DC Comics, we had Absolute Wonder Woman. What issue was this? 3? I'm enjoying this. This is probably there's something about this issue. I've been enjoying it. I love Kelly Thompson's writing. I will say that every single time. And so we have a different take. I'm almost at the point where it's like I'm at a loss of words. That's how I get so excited. But we have kind of a different version of Wonder Woman. And in the beginning, I was like, this is different. This is interesting. And that's as it should be. If you're going to do this absolute whatever, this other version, don't just do the same thing. Otherwise, what's the point? Don't just say, oh, here we got the same exact story. So we're seeing Wonder Woman with a kind of different origin. We still have the Steve Trevor coming to the island, all that stuff like that. But who Wonder Woman's quote unquote mother is, and how she was raised and everything like that, it's totally different. And now her appearance, again, a different thing, the way she's fighting these big, huge creatures. And one of the things that there's a kind of revelation here, one of the things that she did, and it's just definitely some different takes on Wonder Woman. I'm really enjoying that. And just seeing where this is going to go, I'm really, really digging it. So I highly recommend this. You should be reading this. Justice League issue 2. So this is still good, which is a good thing. It's nice that they're taking the Justice League Unlimited route, where it's not just one team, and this kind of really opens
the door a lot. And the only thing is, like, how do you go back? How do you go back to a set roster, and why would you go back to a set roster? So it's very ambitious. You got this massive, headquarters, and, using all this technology, and basically, like, everyone's a member of the Justice League, and, we'll call you when we need you for certain things. And, he uses example, oh, we got a mission in the desert, you're not going to call Aquaman. No offense, Aquaman. But if we're going to this mission in the middle of the seven seas, hey, Arthur, we could use your expertise here. So it's great that they're trying to really use the characters that they need. And also, it's like, wait, why have one powerhouse or two powerhouses? Why not have like 5 powerhouses, and we just like mop up the floor with, try to finish this, end the conflict, the problem, before it gets out of hand, before there's more property damage, before there's more, injuries and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool things. And aside from that, it's not just like action. There's little things, they're dealing with the fact that after the last storyline, a bunch of the Amanda Waller stuff, some heroes, some people, their powers were mixed up. Their powers did not return to them, which I don't understand how that works. But so they're kind of dealing with that. And some people, like Martian Manhunter, are dealing with some things, which he's apparently keeping some things from the other members, and that seems very irresponsible, because I will just say, he does not have at least one ability. Let's just say that, because I don't want to give too much away. But I think you should let your teammates know that, hey, you no longer have this ability, because then when they say, hey, John, we want you need to do this part because you can do this, but it's like, actually he can't do that, and he's just not telling you. So that's not cool. But he's dealing with some stuff, which so we'll have to see where that's going to come. So it's good because a lot of people love Martian Manhunter, and it always feels like he'll get the spotlight, and then he gets shoved in a corner, he gets neglected, and then people forget about him. But he's a massively powered character, and he should be more popular. And first, I don't know why he just gets sidelined so many times. So I don't know. Superman. Issue 21, so Superman, Superwoman. This was a good issue, seeing the two of them, like, they're trying to basically spend some time together, go on a date, but stuff keeps coming up, and I don't know where this Superman, Superwoman thing is going to go. How long is she going to have these powers? So there's definitely some interesting things here. But this issue, I felt like it was a little different, because we kept having these like little interludes, like seeing other people, and they weren't like totally serious. They were a little lighthearted, but it was kind of cool to see like what some other people are doing, and so forth. We got all the stuff with Doomsday coming up, because Doomsday, the Timekeeper, I guess we'll say, came during like Doomsday's fight, and can drop some bombshells on Superman, like about the future and stuff. So, and then then some people. So they have Doomsday captured. Let's just say that, and some people come wanting Doomsday, and what's going to happen here. So that'll be interesting. Detective Comics 1000, is that 92? I can't read from here. And this. I'm digging what's going on here. So Tom Taylor and Mikhail Janin, a new character, Scarlet. I forget her last name. Scarlet Martha something, who was her mom's doctor when she was born was Thomas, and so there's there's kind of like a family connection type of thing. And so it's cool. She seems like a really cool character, and I wouldn't, mind seeing more of her in Bruce's life. And she's super smart now. She's working on some stuff to basically kind of enhance people, like the enhance their genetics or something like that. And which is like kind of a bold move, but she's like, hey, Bruce, I would love for you to be a candidate. And she kind of like finagles some things to get him approved for this. And, this is, we're seeing Bruce lately, he's like, he tore his ACL or something like that. And, he's not obviously not going to let it heal. But now, he's kind of feeling some injuries from, because his body has taken so much abuse. So he surprisingly goes along with this procedure thing, and he's still not sure. I feel like it's a risky thing because will there be any side effects? Is there going to be any bad repercussions from it? And that's, I guess, something that we'll just have to wait and see. But then the other thing is like, who is like behind all this? And that's where we're starting to get some questions, because Bruce is like, oh, I'd love to invest with all this, and she's like, no. And she's like, let's not talk about that here. And she's a little nervous because, like she can't talk there at the lab. So like, who's listening type of thing. So, who else is really behind all this? Yeah. So there's some interesting things here. Batman: The Long Halloween. I didn't get a chance to read this one, but I'm enjoying that. Black Canary, Best of the Best. I think this is issue 2. This is Tom King and Ryan Sook. I don't know how I feel about this comic. It's very weird. It could be good or it could be just questionable. One, we have Black Canary is fighting Lady Shiva, like this big televised fight, like in a ring, which is weird. And she can't use her power, so it's just like all hand to hand. And while Black Canary is an amazing fighter, but Lady Shiva is Lady Shiva. I mean, Lady Shiva should potentially be like the deadliest fighter. I mean, I don't know if she is the deadliest or near deadliest fighter of everyone in DC. And it's like, why is she doing this? And then we find out that, mom is sick. So then, we're kind of led to believe, is she fighting to try to save her mom? Is there some way, that by winning, she can get help for her mom, even though she knows so many, Mr. Terrifics, so many brilliant geniuses that could maybe try to do something. But then a lot of this issue, which is kind of neat, we're seeing like Dinah training with her mom, and her mom is being kind of brutal, and there's like some flashbacks, and we see like when her mom was Black Canary in the beginning, and when Dinah was a kid, and just a lot of, but it's almost like her mom is kind of harsh with her, just like brutal, like with the training, like just really extreme, because trying to make her the best, and the fight is not going well. So yeah, it's just, where's this going? Then we had a Metamorpho, The Element Man. So this is by Al Ewing and Steve Lieber, which is like, it's Steve Lieber, he's great. But Metamorpho, and I don't know. I mean, Metamorpho is not like one of my favorites. I don't have anything against him, but I've read. While I haven't read a lot of Metamorpho stories, I feel like I've read a decent amount. He's popped up every once in a while, and I've read those. And there's been some. Wasn't recently. There's something that I don't know if it was a Brave and the Bold, or there's something, and it was a fun story. But this, I started reading it, and I just, is because of time. I was like, I can't invest at this moment because I was just so last minute trying to get everything done so I could record. So yeah, and as like, are they doing this because he's going to appear in the Superman movie? It was like, why? Sure, he deserves his own comic. Why not, right? But it's like, why now? I don't know. I'm just, yeah. So I need to go back and read that because I'm curious. We got like some Batman. What's the Gargoyle of Gotham? I haven't been reading any of that. I have no idea how that is. Green Arrow, issue 19. This is good. I like this. I feel like it's taking Ollie like a step back, like not in a bad way, like, because it's more like hands-on, like more, less like, oh, I'm rich and I'm in the Justice League and I can do whatever. So I feel like it's relying more on him and his skills as a fighter and as an archer and as a investigator. Like using his intellect, and so he makes some like interesting observations and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of cool seeing him kind of sort of stripped down a little bit more. And yeah, so this was a good issue. The Flash, I'm not reading that. Someday I'll get back on that. And I think that was actually it. So we have more Batman, Santa Claus, Silent Night. I don't even know how long that series is. Maybe I should be reading it. There's Green Lantern Dark, issue 2. I somehow missed the first issue. I didn't read it. I don't know what it's about, why we have this. I didn't read Power Girl just because I've been let down with that. We have Batman Brave and the Bold, and so that's pretty much it. So hopefully you're finding stuff that you enjoy reading, but that is going to be comic books for the week. All right, Creature Commandos, Season 1, Episode 4, Chasing Squirrels. So yes, see, Episode 5 is out right now. We are a week behind. So Episode 4, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I had to, after watching this, I had to tell my daughter about it. She's not watching the show, but she saw the movies, obviously. Anyways, Rick and Ileana, they're smooching. And she asks if he's going to come back to see her, and he says, "Oh, he has to take a Cersei back to the U.S. and find out what's going on here. Why she tried to kill her." Ileana asks if he doesn't think it's best to just, and then she's like, "Bong," and she uses finger guns killing her, suggesting that. He chuckles. He's like, "Oh, we say bang," and then they discuss. She's like, "Well, it sounds more like bong or bang, whatever." But then he's like, well, we can't kill her. It's not the way we do things in America. And she's like, well, the internet says otherwise. He's like, well, it's not how we should do things. So she's like, oh, you're such a good man. And she has such feelings for him. And he replies, yes, I got to go. And he walks away. So this lady, Elizabeth, she confronts Economos, so from Peacemaker, in the hall at this vending machine, that she wants to talk to her client, Weasel. And, she knows that his boss, what's her name, Amanda Waller, got busted for using human beings as cannon fodder. He tries saying, he's sick. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm not sure what's wrong. He's coughing up hairballs or something like that. She's like, oh, you're such a terrible liar. And then she asks what happened to his leg, because he has a brace on. He said he was injured during an alien invasion. And then she still thinks that he's a liar. But then they go by this window, and you can see a runway. The commandos are exiting off their big cargo plane thing, and she sees Weasel stroll off. So she curses at Economos because he said he was sick, but obviously not. Rick tells the bride that despite getting them into trouble, she's good at this. So if they go out again, he hopes that she'll be a part of it. And she says that she didn't realize she had a choice. And then some blonde dude in the baseball cap's watching them. Says wait, who's this? Eric Frankenstein, he's also watching. So he wonders why they're talking so closely. He's like, who is this? So he's in a helicopter, and this lieutenant dude besides Frankenstein says, he's like, oh, that's Rick Flag. He's General Boy Scout. They fought together in Jaunapur some moons ago. And then he's like, yo, you see the way she looks at him. She loves him. She loves his handsome, stupid face. And the lieutenant guy's like, okay. And Frankenstein's like, a bearded face, able to grow hair. It's like, and the dude says, this is where the bride is, so they better land before they're spotted. Frankenstein cuts him off. He's like, you're judging me? And he's like, what? He's like, for not being able to grow hair on my face? It's like, as if that makes me some sort of baby man. And he's like, okay. He's like, I don't even know. And Frankenstein leaps up, grabs him by the throat, and the pilot's looking back. He's like, hey. And then Frankenstein yells at him to mind his own business. So Frankenstein is clearly unhinged. Elizabeth goes outside to talk to John, or Weasel. She calls him John. And to Rick, she's like, sir, where did you take this man? And he's like, man? And she's like, yes, man. And he's like, who are you? She's like, my name is Elizabeth Bates. She's like, I'm an attorney with the Freedom Project representing John Doe. And she hands him a card, and he just kind of glances at it and tosses it. He's like, John Doe? It's like, that's not his real name. She's like, well, we don't know his real name. He's like, you don't know his real name because he can't talk. And she's like, no, I mean, yes. And Rick's like, well, where he was is classified. She's like, my client is innocent. And Rick's like, I thought he killed 27 children. And we see Weasel's chewing rocks. And then there's a flashback. So there's police siren. They're looking for someone. There's this huge fire in this building. Then they see Weasel dragging kids in a basement. And this child screams, and the cop yells, stop, police, and shoots in the window. So Elizabeth in the present, she's like, he was accused of, and Rick's like, and convicted. And she's like, and unfairly convicted of killing 8 children, not 27. And Rick's like, oh, then he's a saint. And she's like, there's no real evidence. I've been waiting for him for 3 days. And he's like, fine, take him. So she has like dog biscuits in her purse and she's like tossing them at him. So the helicopter lands hard that Frankenstein's in because he's strangling the pilot from behind. And then he just like snaps with his thumb. He's like, he just kills this guy. Like, what a jerk. He takes like a marker out of the pilot's pocket. He kicks the door open and he writes Rick Flag on the inside of his hands. It's like, I don't think you should write it on the inside, maybe on the outside. Rick goes in his room, asks Amanda Waller if she's here yet, and on the other side of the glass interview, whatever glass, Cersei is brought in. She's like yelling, threatening everyone. Amanda talks to her. Cersei says that she has no right to keep her here. It's like, what are the charges? And Amanda's like, I'm charging you with first-degree witchy poo and maleficent in the second degree. And an economist is like, oh, and Bette Midler in that one movie in the third degree, and he laughs. And she's like, that's an actress, John. That's not a character's name. And Rick's like, he's talking about Hocus Pocus. And Amanda's like, again, not a character. And Cersei's like, I'll kill you. And Amanda's like, as I understand it, you can't cast spell as long as your hands are restrained. So you're just another red-headed waif in an inappropriately revealing outfit. Why do all you supervillains need to be so sexed up all the time? And she's like, you like that, John? And the economist is like, I mean, sort of. You know, it's a little thirsty. And Amanda's like, you found yourself in the middle of an international incident, Red. So you help me, I help you.
What were you doing in Pokolistan? And she's like, trying to save your worthless lives. So Rick's like scoffs. He's like, come on, she tried to kill us. And Amanda's like, save our lives? Exactly how? And she's like, from that princess witch, Rostovik. It's like, I was coming to kill her to save the world. And Rick's like, oh, come on. He just keeps saying that. And Amanda's like, I know it's hep to be a superhero these days, but your resume doesn't exactly back up the Glinda the Good Witch routine. It's like, all I see here are murder and assault charges. And Cersei's like, even the devil doesn't want to see the world dying. Amanda's like, and we should believe you why? It's like, I will show you the future, Amanda Waller. So she stands and she walks to the one-way mirror. It's like, you want to see it? Or perhaps you want to stay a pig in the slop of your own ignorance. So then Amanda's like, show me how. She's like, I told you about Rostovik. You want to see for yourself? Join me. And Rick's like, she's full of it. Economos is like, well, according to her file, she's possibly clairvoyant. And Amanda's like, which one is that again? Reading minds? And he's like, no, seeing the future. And she's like, oh. So it's like, how would Amanda not know that? So she's like, Economos like, well, with her hands restrained, she can't cast spells, but she might be able to get into your head. And Rick's like, don't do it, Waller. So Elizabeth, the lawyer, like spreads out photos of kids, and she says that she hopes that one might spur some sort of reaction. Meanwhile, Weasel's like licking himself and is sitting in a chair, and she tries like snapping to get his attention. She's like, do any of these photographs mean anything to you? He like sighs and then bends forward, and his eyes almost seem to come into focus on this little blonde girl in the middle. And then we like hear her voice. So flashback again, kids on like a playground kicking a ball. And this girl's saying, she's like, I'm open, whatever. Then we see like, or she sees something in the bushes. It's Weasel. And a boy wonders, like, is that a groundhog? And this other boy's like, no way, it's too big. So the girl calls him out, like holds out some chocolate and like tosses it. And then just start doing like a fetch thing. You know, she throws it. This other boy is like, oh, your mom's going to kill you if she knows you're feeding it. And she's like, what? It's hungry. So then he goes to his bag, he gets the apple, and he comes for it. Weasel comes out for it and he starts eating it, and the kids smile. So then in the present, Weasel holds and stares at the picture, and it's almost like, are his eyes watering? Like, maybe not, because then he just like chomps and eats the photo. And she's like, oh boy. And then Weasel spits the photo out on the table. 2 guards come up and are like, time's up. And she's like, I'm going to figure this out. So Waller, meanwhile, goes in the room with Cersei, arms across. Cersei gets up and walks to her. Rick is ready to pull out his gun. Cersei's like, are you ready? And Amanda's like, for what? Gah! She's like, her eyes like kind of go pink and purple. So then there's lights. There's like upbeat rock music playing, of course, because, you know, James Gunn likes to put his music into the music he likes. We see Ilyana like on the top of a castle with like a staff and like battle armor, and she like raises it, and then like some planes drop bombs. The city gets blown up. There's an army of like armored soldiers. They're like marching. There's screams, and then there's like Gorilla Grodd next to her, and then civilians are getting shot. We see the White House. She's sitting behind a desk. She's blood splattered on her, so she obviously killed the president. There's that superheroes, like Superman's on a cross. Someone's impaled. I thought it was Wonder Woman, but it might have been Supergirl, because James Gunn like mentioned like he did a video like who was there, but so there's Batman. I think I mentioned there's a bunch of skeletons. I think Peacemaker was dead, and she's just like laughing. So then Amanda gasps. She's pulled out of the vision. She groans and she pants and she falls to her knees. And Cersei has like tears streaming down her face. And Waller goes in the other room. And Rick's like, "What the hell was that?" He's like, "Waller." And she's like, "I don't know." Then he's like, "She's obviously pulling some sort of Jedi mind trick on you." She's like, "I don't know. It seemed." He's like, "What?" And she's like, "Legitimate." He's like, "Come on." It's like, "There's no freaking way." And then she gets on her phone. So this lady looks at Cersei through the glass. She's like, "All my research says that Cersei is in fact legitimately clairvoyant." And she's like, "On Themyscira, it's taken as fact." And Rick's like, "Oh, and now we're taking Themyscira as fact?" So Rick is so annoying in this episode. Economist is like, "Dude, it's a real place. We know that now." And he's like, "I know it's a real place, but what kind of place is it? An island of all women?" He's like, "Come on." And the lady's like, 10 years ago, Cersei warned the women of the island, and yes, they are all women. The economist is like, "Sign me up, right?" And the lady's like, "She warned of a tsunami that was going to kill thousands. Many, but not all of the islanders took refuge inland. A major tsunami did indeed hit within an hour of what Cersei predicted. Those who took refuge survived. Those who did not, did not. Since then, her talents have fallen more often on the less altruistic side." And the man is like, "And why do you think what she just did to me isn't on the less altruistic side?" And she's like, "She's clairvoyant. She's not able to imagine futures. I don't see how she could have showed you anything other than the genuine." And Rick's like, "Oh, come on." And then she's like, "Flag, gather the commandos and head back to Pakistan." He's like, "To do what?" And she's like, "To kill the princess." He's like, "You have got to be kidding me." It's like, "What? Who even are you again?" To the lady. She's like, Asla McPherson or something like that. And then Amanda's like, "Dr. McPherson is a tenured professor at Terrebonne University and the world's leading scholar on Themyscira. And Rick is a place where no outsider has ever set foot because anyone who tries is killed." And Amanda's like, "Why are you wasting time?" He's like, He's like, "If Cersei is so clairvoyant, why didn't she know that Weasel was going to beat the crud out of her or that Phosphorus was going to burn her damn face off?" And the lady's like, "Clairvoyants usually don't have control over what bits of the future they see, General." And he's like, "Oh, that's convenient." So Amanda's like, "John, contact the Pakistani embassy and tell them that we have information of another credible threat against the princess." And Rick's like, "Waller, stop." And she's like, "Now that we've gained their trust, it should be easy to get the commandos inside and neutralize her." And Rick's like, "Stop it, damn it." It's like, "Are you telling me that the United States is now in the business of executing people for crimes they haven't committed yet?" She's like, "The United States is in the business of saving the damn world by any means necessary." He's like, "Please, Amanda." She's like, "Amanda?" He's like, "Listen to me. I'm telling you, I met this woman. This isn't her." And she's like, "Bumping uglies with someone doesn't mean you're infallibly able to know a person's character, General." He's like, "I didn't." And she's like, "Oh, now, don't lie to me, Flag." He's like, "I'm not doing this. I'm out." And Economist is like, "So what now?" She's like, "We find a leader who's less whiny, less witch, and a little more witch," but she's not saying witch. So the commandos are back in the prison, Orange. They're getting their slop in the cafeteria. The bride sighs. Phosphorus seems happy to be back home. And he's talking to her, and she's like, "What? Are we supposed to be buddies now?" He's like, "I think so." And then they see like this big ape creature, Congarilla, and this female bat-like thing bullying Nina and like taking her food. They laugh at her when she says that she's hungry and, she's been on a long flight. So the bride gets in their way, and they're like, "What you looking at, Manic Panic?" And she's like, "Give her back her food." So Congarilla like growls, and he gets like right in her face, and then he just like walks around her, but then the bride whacks him with her tray, and like he smashes into the wall. His head leaves like a little crater. Then Congarilla gets up with a big roar, and she like shoves a tray like into his jaw, like busting some teeth, and just makes like a bloody mess. She slams it down like a couple more times. Weasel just starts like licking food on the floor. Nina and pretty much everyone is like in shock. Phosphorus takes a tray from the bat lady and hands it to Nina. He's like, there you go. Now everyone's happy, right? And he leans towards the bat lady. Except for you, because you no longer have food and you're ugly. He's like, and this one, because he no longer has a jaw. He also might be dead. So then Economos comes in calling Bride's name, and he like steps in a puddle of blood, whatever. And she's like, right, I know, back into the hole. He's like, no, you're leading the team back to Apocalypse. He's like, Nina, Phosphorus, Weasel, get ready to leave. So Rick's driving in a truck. He tries calling the princess on the phone. He's telling someone that he needs to talk to her. And the guard's on the phone's like, I no speak English. Call back. He's like, no, listen, the princess' life is in danger. He's like, thank you to call back. Though, yes. He's like, no, it's a matter of life or death. Morta. It's like, how do you say? Then the line drops. He pulls up to, I guess it's his house, and there's this little yellow car, like little tiny car. It's like following him to like parks in front of his house. So Flag is surprised, and he like works to open. He goes in the door. Frankenstein climbs out, grabs him, slams him against like the wall inside. He like busts in. He's like, "You think she'll fall in love with you? She'll never love you." And like throws him across the room. He, like smashes into a glass case with like trophies. Flag tries shooting him, but then the bullets like do nothing. Frankenstein yells, grabs his arm with the gun, and he kicks him in the crotch. So Rick kicks Frankenstein, but then Frankenstein grabs his leg, slams him down, throws him through a door. More fighting. Rick like reloads, manages to get like on his back and points a gun to his head. So he's like, "Don't move." He's like, "I'm going to bet your eyeball isn't bulletproof." Then Frankenstein starts yelling and stomping his foot, and Rick's like, "I should be the one screaming here. You attacked me for no reason." He's like, "For no reason, ha 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 ha." And Rick's like, "Now I'm stuck here on your back in an incredibly uncomfortable position." So Frankenstein continues laughing. He's like, "I ought to blow your brains out just so I can get down." And he's like, "I'm laughing." He's like, "I heard you. It's unconvincing." And then he starts sobbing. "You think she'll love you? She'll never love you." And he's like, "Who, the princess?" He's like, "No, now you call her your princess? Is that your pet name for her? Dear God, I can't believe this is happening to me. She isn't your bride. She's my bride." And he's like, "Oh, the bride." He's like, "Who else would I be talking about? You dilfy piece of poop." Call him a dilf. And Rick's like, "Listen to me. The bride and I have nothing going on. Between us, she's not my type. And I'm not hers, okay? She's everyone's type. And so are you." And Rick's like, "Well, thank you, but no. Now, can I please come down? You promise to stop attacking me so we can talk?" Frankenstein sighs. Rick jumps down, asks if he wants coffee or something. "I'll have tea." So then Frankenstein's sitting like at an island in the kitchen, and Rick makes tea. He's like, "What a beautiful story." And he's like talking about what he shares with the princess, with this princess, whatever. And Frankenstein's like, "Oh, I would say it's love." Rick's like, "But she isn't the person that the Circe says she is. I can't just stand by, if she's murdered in cold blood." He's like, "No, not with this great love at stake. The two of you, like Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic. Have you seen that movie?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, not many people have. But at this point, I have trouble distinguishing between you and Leo. Oh, which one of you is king of the world?" And he's like, "Leo." Then Frankenstein shakes his head and points to Rick. He's like, "Okay." And he's like, "My love is also great, but more like when Harry met Sally. Have you seen that movie?" He's like, "I have, yeah. They want to come together. Everyone knows they should be together. They love each other so much. One day, in the middle of a restaurant," and he's like, Sally and Harry overcome with the passion. She had pleasures in her pants. And Rick's like, "I don't think that's exactly what's happening in that scene." So it's like, okay, whatever. And he's like, "My bride, she plays these little fetch games. She knows inside, as I do, that we are destined to be together." And he's like, "Right, so maybe we can help each other." So he stands, and Frankenstein's like, "Best friends?" And Rick almost does like a spit take. He's like, "What?" So the others, Bride, Nina, Phosphorus, and Weasel, they're on a cargo plane. Nina finally breaks the silence and asks, why does she help her in the cafeteria? And Bride's like, "I owed you for almost getting you killed." And she's like, "Oh, well, when you put it that way, we're not exactly even. I mean, I almost wound up dead, and I'm not sure getting gross food back makes up for that." Bride looks at her, and they both chuckle. Then Bride says, "They want us to kill the princess." And Nina's like, "Why?" Says, "It's on a need-to-know basis." And they both say, "We don't need to know." And then Nina's like, "Have you ever killed anyone before?" And she's like, "Sure, you?" And Nina's like, "Do I seem like I've killed somebody?" So Bride chuckles. She's like, "Not really." So Nina's like, "Are you going to kill the princess?" And she's like, one less human, more room for the monsters to roam. And Weasel starts whining in his sleep. So another flashback. He's playing fetch with the kids. They're all laughing. They're playing like keep away. Weasel kind of bumps the door to the school, like it bumps open, and the kid like notices it. And there's this older man out in the woods. I thought he was like the groundskeeper or something like that. So he sees him. He's like, "What the hell?" The boy's like, "Someone left the back of the school open. Let's go." And the girl's like, "Oh, we'll get in trouble." He's like, "Not if no one finds out." So they run inside. The man shakes his head. He's like, "Oh no." He has like a basket of mushrooms. So maybe he wasn't a groundskeeper. And in the classroom, they open a drawer. There's like a bottle of booze. But then they find like their grades. The girl picks up the bottle and she presents a drink. She's like, "Glug, glug, glug. I'm so drunk." They all laugh. And then the man's like running through the woods. He's texting like on an old, or I guess he was dialing on an old flip phone. The kids they keep playing inside. They found another ball. Girl tosses it, bounces down some stairs. So they all go down. So the man's talking to someone. He's like, he's like, "I don't know what it was. It was some type of werewolf." So he's like, "He took the kids into school. I think he's going to kill them." So he grabs his shotgun from his shack. He's like nearby, and he's talking to police. They say that they'll be there as soon as they can. The man tells them to hurry up. At the station, the police dude says that sounds like some kind of whack job, but the kids they're still playing ball. They're hitting like paper balls around. One kid finds a box of matches like up on a shelf. So the man walks back towards the school with the shotgun. One kid is trying to light a match. Girl throws a paper ball. It hits the kid in the face. He drops a bottle of booze, which hits the wall, splashes booze on the floor and some papers. And then the kids with the matches like get startled. They drop the match, which starts up the paper and the booze on fire. Weasel and the girl are still like running around the blonde girl. This other girl gets distracted by them and starts running too. So she ignores the fire. This other girl starts heading up the stairs and the man is there. He's like, "What are you so afraid of, child? And what has that thing done to you?" So she doesn't answer because she's like freaked out. Like, who's this dude? And he's got a shotgun. So he goes down. He sees Weasel like kneeling over the blonde girl who got like knocked on her back. He's like, "You get away from those kids." And Weasel doesn't understand. There's police sirens outside. The man approaches. Weasel just like stares. He shoots 3 times and Weasel like ducks. There's this big thing of machinery like behind them. It gets shot and like some liquid like shoots out of it. So I don't know if it's like the furnace or there's kerosene or what is in there. So some liquid starts shooting out and then it hits the flammable stuff. The flame goes like up the stream and Weasel grabs a blonde girl. There's a huge explosion. So the police like outside, they get knocked back. They got out of their car. The basement are in flames. The kids are like knocked out. Weasel starts waking up. He sees like a boy like breathing heavy, like really banged up, and then he like tries going to the kid, and then the kid I guess dies. So the blonde is cowering against the wall. Flames are all around. Weasel like hears her. Some flaming timber falls between them. She continues crying. So Weasel like backs up, leaps over the flame. The girl like hugs him. The police are walking outside. They find like a busted window. And they look inside. So this is what we saw before. They see Weasel like dragging the girl while the other kids and the man are lying on the floor. So the police gasps. Weasel turns and then the flames like kind of reflect in his eyes, making him look like more menacing. And then while he has a girl's sweater in his mouth, the cop's like, "He has a kid." And he like points his gun. He's like, "Stop, police." He starts shooting. Weasel like runs up the stairs, still carrying a girl. The place is like collapsing. He runs through like flaming halls. The place is just falling apart. He runs on this hall. There's like window where he's going to make his exit, but then the police dude is there and he sees him. So he shoots and he hits Weasel, shoots him. He drops the girl, goes down, but then he picks her up again, goes down this other hallway. They cut him off and they shoot him several more times. He tries to continue, but he ends up dropping the girl. They slam him down, and then some burning timber like traps the girl, and then she like reaches out, but they don't even see her there. They're just so worried, forcing Weasel down, and then more like burning wood falls on her. So Weasel screams, tries reaching out, but she's buried, and then he continues screaming. Then on the plane, he's still twitching, and Nina's like, "I wonder what he's dreaming about." And the bride's like, "Probably just chasing squirrels," which is the name of the episode. And then Nina just like pets his back while he sleeps. And that's the end of the episode. So that is so sad that Weasel is completely innocent. He was just playing with the kids, and then this dude shoots, and he tried saving her, and he remembers that she died, and he tried saving her, and he's having this nightmare. He can't talk, so that's so sad. And that's the end of the episode. So, like I said, before in the beginning, it's like, yeah, I don't care about these characters. So I do feel bad for Weasel, but obviously not enough to care that much. But that's so sad. So I had to tell my daughter that because she saw Weasel in the movie, and she's like, "That's sad. Poor Weasel." All right, then Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Season 1, Episode 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates. I think with each episode, I'm liking this more and more, and I just find it very. I'm so fascinated with the fact that we have kids, and while we did have kids in Phantom Menace, this is kind of interesting seeing the kids play like such a big role, and having Jude Law as an adult with them. So So it starts off on At-Atten. Wendell's like at his workstation, and then Neil's mom Numa visits him, like whispering, and he's said they go off somewhere like this railing. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And she says that they need the barrier access code, but he's going to have to steal it. And he's like, "I don't have clearance." And she has like some electronics and says that he can use that to break into the system, but don't let anyone see it. And they need that access code. So he takes the stuff, he sneaks back to he goes back to his desk. He's got it like in his pocket or whatever. He plugs the thing into his terminal. He like is typing away nervously, and this security droid kind of looks in his direction. So he's like types faster and faster. It starts walking towards him. Then he like yanks the device out and like sticks it. At first I thought he put it in his pocket, but he's just like holding it under his desk. So then he asks the droid, he's like, "Can I help you?" And the droid's like, "An energy surge was detected at your terminal." And Wendell says, he's like, "Oh, I don't remember any surges." The droid's like, "Nevertheless, please step away so I can access the terminal." So he gets up, put the device is in his hand, so it's behind his back. Then the droid asks, "What are you hiding behind your back?" And he's like, "Nothing." So it's like, "Show me your hand." So he raises one hand, then it's like, "And let me see the other hand." So then he puts his hand back, raises his other hand, so he switched it. Then it's like, "Show me both hands at the same time." So he's busted. So the security droid drops a device on someone's desk. It's like, "A coordinator was caught with this. Shall I initiate security protocols?" So it's actually Farah, Fern's mom. And then she's like, she's like, "Delete all records of this incident and power yourself down." So Wendell kind of peeks in the doorway, and she like snaps at him. She says she has to turn off the cameras or something like that. And then she tells him that she told him to wait, and he says it's just a way to get a message through the barrier so they can help the kids without saying anything specific about Atten's location. She says that she's handling this through the proper channels, which is the only way they're ever going to see their kids again. And he's like, "And is that working?" And then she's like, "Something's wrong." So he's like, "The supervisor isn't going to help us. We have to do something, Farah, please." So then she's like, "Well, what's the plan?" The others are on the ship in space. Jod, he's like, he tied down SM-33 since he tried killing them. Wim asks, he's like, "Well, what's the point?" It's like, "If we turn him on, he's just going to try to kill us again." Fern says that the point is he knows how to find At-Atten. KB says that she rerouted the memory chip so it won't overload his core processor. Neil's like, "Are you sure? Because he was just about to tear us apart." Jod's like, "It'll be all right." He's like, "Just turn it on." And Fern's like, "You turn him on." He's like, "You want to ask him about the treasure." And he's like, "And you just want him to take you home." So Fern's like, "You're just scared." And he's like, "You're scared." So then Fern's like, "KB, switch him on." And she like kind of looks at him. So she does. Then 33 turns his head at them. He's like, "What do you want?" And she's like, "Do you remember where At-Atten is?" And Neil says, "Make him promise that he's not going to attack us again." So 33 is like, "I will not harm you." Like kind of started. He's like, "Those were the old captain's orders, old Captain Renaud." Friend's like, "But what about And then Jod's like, "Wait, what? Captain Renaud? Tak Renaud?" "Aye, the very same." And Jod looks around the ship. "This ship is the Onyx Cinder?" So the others are like staring at him. They're confused. He's like, "You don't appreciate how incredible this is. Tak Renaud's the most infamous pirate the galaxy's ever known. For years, he's roamed the skies, plundering, terrorizing whole star systems. Anything he wanted, he took it. The story goes he was after the treasure of At-Atten aboard the mysterious ship, the Onyx Cinder, when he just disappeared. Crew, ship, all." And Friend's like, "Yeah, who cares?" It's like, 33, "Do you remember where At-Atten is or not?" Sadly, no. But Captain Renard scanned at Atten's coordinates, kept them hidden in his lair deep beneath Skull Ridge Mountain. And Fern's like, perfect, then take us there. Aye, Captain. He like grunts. He just like snaps the ropes. So like the ropes did nothing. And the ship goes into hyperdrive. So 33 tells him how they were on course for Atten when Captain Renard began to suspect mutiny. So with the treasure so close, the first mate went mad with greed and challenged the captain. Neil asks, what did the captain do? And 33 says the captain's concubine betrayed him, stabbed him with his own dagger, but the captain had the last laugh because he locked out the ship's controls and the whole mutinous lot of them died, crashing into Atten. So Jod laughs. Then Neil's like, what's a concubine? And Jod says, I think that's enough story time for now. And Neil's like, I want to hear about Renard's secret lair. 33 is like, oh, how I missed it. My home, the place of my assembly. The lair lies in the heart of a lone mountain where bubbling pits of mud hide the mangled corpses of the captain's foes. Home, sweet home. And then the mouse peeks out of his eye. Wim seems bored or something like that. He's been quiet during all this. So he finally gets up and John notices. Then he decides to go after him. So Wim is off. He's kind of sniffling on his own. He's crying and he's looking at a data pad. And John's like, what are you doing, boy? So he gets startled and he tries hiding the data pad. He's like, nothing. And he's like, oh. He's like, oh dear. He turns to leave because he sees he's crying. He's like, he doesn't want to deal with a crying kid. And then Wim's like, all I ever wanted was a real adventure. So John's like, he's like, well, you're going to attack Renard's hidden lair. That sounds pretty good to me. Wim sighs. It's not what I thought it would be. Like out here, it's scary and confusing. I miss my dad and my mom. And Jod's like, chin up. He's like, you'll see him again soon. He starts to walk away. Then Wim's like, not my mom. So then Jod stops. He's like, he probably doesn't want to, but he comes back. He sits next to Wim. He's like, all right, here's what you do. Forget them. Your fears, your anxieties, your parents, they're what you call attachments. And they're the last thing you need. Forget them. That's what I did. And Wim's like, I can't do that. He's like, you have a powerful imagination. It's like, when you want to, you can see the grand adventure in even a rotten galaxy like this. Remember, your focus determines your reality. You have vision. And he uses the force to levitate the data pad back into his hands. He's like, embrace it. Make your life the one that you want to live. And then he goes to leave. He's like, wait, but if you're not really a Jedi, how'd you do that? And Jod just nudges him with his arm. He gets up and leaves. So obviously, he's force sensitive, but he was probably never a Jedi, and there's probably no time for him to be a Jedi. So maybe he just was able to hide it. And obviously, he's not living the best, most noble life, apparently, with all the stuff he's been doing. So the ship exits hyperspace and approaches this planet. They fly over mountains where, according to 33, none dared to go. KB points and says, what about them? He's like, a cavalcade of fearsome, bloodthirsty buccaneers, no doubt. And then kind of giving him a side glance, Jod's like, He's like, they look like pleasure yachts. So Fern says that he took him to the wrong planet. Neil says, again, and 33 is like, impossible. I recognize every twisted peak. Skull Ridge Mountain should be directly ahead. And then these two small crafts fly up on either side of them. Man calls over, welcome to Lanupa, a neutral planet where all are welcome. If they keep the peace, violators will be shot down. John's like, Lanupa? He's like, you brought us to Lanupa? And 33 like, it goes by many names. The Demon's Rust Battle World, Lanupa. Then the man on the radio asks if they have a reservation. So Jod flips a switch in the comm. He's like, sure we do. The kids, of course, they're all start bickering. And Fern starts, she's like, I thought we... And Wim's like, wait, what are we doing here? And KB and Neil both like, what's Lanupa? And he's like, hey, shush. So KB's like, what's a pleasure yacht? Then the man on the radio is like, sir, if those are children, I hear, be warned. Our facilities are intended for adult guests only. Children are not permitted. So John's like, you heard what the man said. You stay on the ship. 33 and I will get into the lair. We'll find at Atten's coordinates. And Fern's like, and run off without us? Nice try. We're coming with you. And I'm just like, oh, Fern is so annoying. It's like, it doesn't work just because you say so. He's like, you can trust me. It's like, stay on the ship. And then 33 is like, I go where the captain goes. So he just groans. He's like, fine. Empty your pockets. I'm going to need every last Old Republic credit you're hiding. So the ship lands, and then this like piece like falls off, rolls away. There's this lady standing there, so she tells some guards, whatever, to contact waste removal. Closed caption refers to the one guy as a bellhop. He's like, they may have a situation. She turns a smile to the craft as the door opens. Jod walks out. He's like, may I present from the Bratrick system, the most wise elders. And no one comes out. He repeats louder, the most wise elder. And then they come down, like cling to this like thing, just like drops down. Like, I can't describe it. And they're all wearing like cloaks and stuff like that. So the hotelier, is the lady is referred in the closed caption, welcomes them to the most famous spas at Skull Ridge Mountain. It's like, right this way. And Jod says, he's like, I have to translate. He's like, the Batrick physiology permits no basic. So then he just speaks, he just speaks gibberish. And 33 comes down the walkway, and they start walking, towards the hotel. He's like, this is Skull Ridge Mountain. He's like, they ruined it. So they stand in line to get scanned. KB asks Fern, quietly, like, what if the pirate lair is gone? And she's like, we'll find it. And the bellhop says to Jod, it's like, no weapons allowed at the spa. And he's like, a harmless little knife. But it's pretty big. It's like 6-inch blade at least, or maybe 9-inch. And it has this really big handle. Then he's given a lei, just with big thing around his flowers around him. He's handed his big drink. 33 gets a restraining bolt put on him. He's like, now, what is the meaning of this? And the bellhop says, droids have been used as weapons in the past. The bolt restrains all violent actions. He starts like walk away, and then 33 is like, is that so? And then he gets like electrical, crackles, and he groans. Jod uses the force to get his blade back, sticks it like in his pocket. So as they walk some more, the hotelier continues with the spiel about all the luxury and all the stuff, points to their sensory gymnasium, delicacies from across the sector, their buffet. 33 is like grumbling, food for weaklings. And then she's like, and below us, carved straight into the mountain rock by legend has it, ancient pirates, is the spa. And he's like, 'tis no legend, you insolent. Gets zapped again. And she's not even like listening to him. She's totally ignoring 33. So she goes on about natural hot springs, rejuvenating mud baths. They look down like over this like balcony, and Fern mutters like, the lair's definitely down there. And KB's like, I hope not. And Jod asks the lady why so much security. And she's like, the banking clan is here for an economic summit and to enjoy the baths. So we are on high alert for spies and imposters. Now, what name is your reservation under? So he puts on an Old Republic credit. And she like looks at it, and she picks it up, like tucks it in her sleeve. Then she asks, and the wise elders? So he kind of chuckles, puts on another credit. She takes it with a smile. And he's like, oh, look, there I am. Professor Gorlox, he sees a name on a screen. So Fern comes up to him, speaks gibberish, and then he turns to her, and she mutters, she's like, we're not staying. We're finding the lair, that's it. And then louder, he's like, you're right, ma'am. I should enjoy myself. He puts on another credit. Upgrade me to one of your finest suites. Oh, and ask the chef to select a banquet. I'll dine alone. Then a voice from the side, a female alien's like, do my eyes deceive me, or is that Dash Zenton in the flesh? Apparently this actress is the same actress who played Merida in Brave. Neil to the others, he's like, Dash Zenton? How many names does he have? So to the newcomer, he's like, Jod's like, what an unexpected delight. Pock? And she's like, it's Pocket. So Pokkit. He's like, Pocket, how long has it been? And she's like, since you stole my bounty and left me drowning in a pit of leeches? So he kind of chuckles nervously. He's like, no hard feelings? And he's like, And she's like, none whatsoever. And she chuckles. He's like, good. And she's like, in fact, I tried to find you, just to make sure you knew there was no bad blood. Funny thing, though, no one I ever met heard of a Dash Zenton. He's like, he like laughs. And she's like, I bounty hunt for a private client now. No more low-rent guild jobs. He's like, lucky you. And she's like, so, don't worry. I'm just here for some R&R. And she's like, I haven't even checked the pucks. He's like, well, why should I worry? So the pucks are the little bounty hunter things that show, like, who they can go after. And she's like, I got to go. I got a hot back to soak. And she looks at the others, and she's like, hey, kids, don't trust this Slimo. And hotel lady, like, heard all of this. And she's like, I'm sorry, what name was the reservation under? So he puts down like a bunch of credits. He's like, no luggage, and we're in a hurry. So getting off an elevator, he's like, no, listen. He's like, that nice lady is a ruthless bounty hunter with a bad grudge, most likely. She's already called my name in. And Wim's like impressed by the room. He says it looks like a palace. There's this gorgeous view of mountains out the window. And 33 is like, Captain would be in a fearsome temper if he saw this. I mean, a buffet? So Jod turns the window like to privacy. So the kid's like, oh man, because they can't see outside. He's like, we have to assume someone is coming after us. We have to move fast and in and out. And if Renaud's lair is even still here. 33 like, 'tis here. The outside may have changed, but the lair is deep in the heart of the mountain. All who enter face ruin and slaughter. And Jod's like, fine, great. How do we get in? Through what they call the spa, but I know he marked the entrance with his sigil thusly. So he like scratches a symbol on the table. So Jod's like, so we split into teams, and the children are laughing. They're like, he turns, he sees him like jumping on the bed, having like a pillow fight or something like that. He yells, he's like, are you listening to any of this? And Fern's like, yes, we're listening. He's like, oh yeah, what did I just say? And she's like, are you listening to any of this? So he like breathes. He's like, a crew of murderous pirates is coming. Do you understand? We have to move fast. Wim's like, why are they so mad at you anyways? And why does Pocket hate you? And Fern's like, what happened between you two? Neil's like, why can't he just say sorry? So Jod's like, this is idiotic. It's like, we have to hurry. We're going to split into 2 teams and search the spa. KB says that she can't go down there. And Fern's like, you worried about corrosion from the steam? And she's like, no, it's just gross is all. So Jod's like, it's okay. You can take the sensory gymnasium. And Fern's like, you take the sensory gymnasium, Professor Gorlock. I'm searching the spa. And 33 is like, and I must go with my captain. So he's like, fine. 33, Fern, Wim, you're one. And then Neil interrupts, like, no, I want to go with Wim. And he's like, and we wanted to search a buffet. And so then he's yelling, he's like, we're not searching the buffet. Then Fern's like, KB should be on my team. He's like, no, it doesn't matter whose team who is on. We're doing it, and we're doing it before we get killed by pirates. Am I clear? And in a normal voice, he's like, find a symbol, find Atten, and hope that dear lovely Pocket hasn't called in your bounty. So Pocket, meanwhile, called Brutus, and she's like, Zenton, Silvo, whatever you call him, I'm claiming your bounty. So then he's like, where is this cowardly wretch? And she's like, here is the coordinates. How about my payment? You'll have your payment when I have Silvo. I'm sending 2 ships, and keep this quiet. And she's like, I wouldn't dream of breathing a word to anyone. So we see there's a hut in the spa in a mud pit. So that was kind of cool. Fern and Wim are walking without any head coverings, which seems silly. 33 is carrying a bunch of towels. They ask 33 if anything looks familiar. And he says that these pools are supposed to be for dissolving corpses in acid. And Fern asks if the mud comes from inside the mountain. He's like, in the captain's day, aye. Then she's like, well, then we followed a pipe. You said the lair's in the heart of the mountain? Aye, captain. So Wim pulls out his walkie-talkie, and he's like, Jedi 2, we're following the pipe. Repeat, we're following the pipe. Jod is looking at some carvings on a wall. Wim radios, copy that, Jedi 1. He's like, we're looking at a bunch of carvings in the mud baths. KB walks up to them. And Captain Renaud's symbol doesn't look like any of these. He's like, this is taking too long. Wim sees a couple bellhops, like talking to someone in a mud bath and saying that they haven't seen him. So he like ducks down and he calls a Jod. He like tells him the guards are looking at them. And he's like, just act like you belong, KB. Make sure you cross-reference all of these. Then a bellhop heads their way and Jod tells him to stay back. He's like, don't talk. So then the bellhop's like, Professor Gorlox, is it? He's like, yes. Professor Umiam Gorlox of Scipio. And Jod's like, run. Fern, Wim, and 33 are in some caves. Fern finds a symbol on a stone platform on the ground. Then this voice calls out in the steam, thinking that she's a attendant wanting, so the creature, whatever, wants refreshments. And she's like, yes, my apologies. I'll go get you a selection of our finest. Then this big, I thought it was a tongue or tentacles, like slaps down like in front of her. And it's like, you don't smell like an attendant. Are you an assassin? And 33 like drops the towels. Back away from the captain. Then gets zapped by the restraining bolt. So there's this huge alien creature in the spa. And then he's like, Captain, is it? Wim radios Neil that they need help. Neil, KB, and Jod are busy running like these platforms, or whatever, walkways. The bellhops are in security are yelling, to get them. An officer yells, like, halt, dash Zenton.
a.k.a. Mad Captain Silvo, a.k.a. Jodwick Hank. And then they get cut off by these 3 big security guys. And so they stop running. They're like, now step away from the wise elders and raise your hands. KB's like, we're not elders, we're kids. And she takes off her face covering. And then the dude's like, well then, you're under arrest too. So Jod gives her a look like, you're not helping. Then KB pulls this tiny device and starts like pointing at the guards in the front and back. And the dude's like, what are you going to do with that? So they and Jod start laughing. So it's like this little wrench. And then she turns a bolt on some pipes next to her. And then the pipes start rattling. And somehow a big gush of mud shoots out, knocks the 3 guards like off the walkway. So Jod punches the guy that was like first chasing him behind him. And he's like, let's go. So they start. And then he's like, wait. When he hears like something coming in front of them in the steam, it's 33. The captain needs help in the grottos below. So down below, Wim says, and so then Captain Fern led us into battle against the Troika army. And Jod and the others find him like sitting, talking to the big giant alien. He's like, quite a story. Then what happened? And then he's like, oh, hey guys, this is, I forgot how it's like Cholops or something like Cthulhups. And he said he'd help us if we entertain him. He's like, so this is Jod? And sniffs, you are right. Do not trust him. And Jod's like, nice. He's like, well, it's great. You're making friends. And he's like, we have a situation here. So then Cthulhups his friend's like, is going to help us out. And he's like, oh, really? So he like lashes out his tentacle and smashes the stone thing. Ship is going through hyperspace, and this other ship is waiting when they exit. They approach the planet. The 2 small ships fly up to either side to greet them. They both get shot and destroyed. So they land. The hotelier looks concerned. In the grottos, Cthulhups lowers them down and says that he smells the guards approaching. He's like, if you survive, I'd love to hear the end of your story someday. So they thank him. And 33 is like, be warned, Captain Renard carved a maze of tunnels and lined them with booby traps. Follow me and watch where you step. So they walk. You see a couple bodies. KB says that they look like they're decapitated. And there's like a whir, 33 ducks. Lasers lash out, slicing like or just over the kids' heads into the like rock behind them. And it looks like Jod like stepped on a button on the ground. 33 repeats, watch your step. So Jod's like, I'll take up the rear. And Fern is about to protest, of course. And he finishes like, in case the guards catch up. So annoying Fern steps forward as if she could actually do anything on her own. And she's like, remember, we have a deal. You only get your reward when you get us home. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll go in the middle. So an officer is searching in the grottos. He's radioed to find the fugitives and get back up because the spa is being attacked by pirates. He somehow gets a sense of a booby trap. He tosses like a rock in front of him, and it kind of, just some hover energy, sends it floating up where there's like steel spikes on the top. So he chuckles and turns, he's like, don't worry. But then he gets shot in the chest. He falls back. He gets hovered up. Then there's like a dozen pirates there, including Pocket. Further in, the other one shouts like, Silvo. And Fern's like, another fake name. And so they reach some stairs. 33 is like, Captain Renard's lair should lie directly beneath this chamber. So there's like a pool of water at the bottom. And Jod's like, great, who wants to dive in first? KB's like, that's not water. Fern asks 33. And he takes like a step in. His foot starts to like smoke a little bit. Appears to be acid, Captain. And Jod's like, of course it is. It's like, this is a good one, isn't it? There's got to be a way in. Look for a lever. We've got to get through before those pirates catch up. KB looks up. There's like the round stone thing, like with Renard's symbol and some writing. She reads, all who enter paradise must make the greatest sacrifice. Wim and Neil aren't sure like what that means. KB says that means someone has to sacrifice their life. And Jod's like, he's like, no. Neil starts like freaking out. He's like, you have a lot to learn about pirates, which is the name of the episode. He's like, Tak Renard was known for killing. He didn't think twice about taking a life. Wim's like, he was bad, so what? And KB's like, so to him, life was not the greatest sacrifice. And Jod's like, And Neil's like, well, it was. Wim and Fern both say, treasure. So KB's like, but you spent all our dataries. And Neil's like, are there any left? So I'll search your pockets. So someone had one. Jod tosses one in the middle of the acid pool. The music playing like crescendos, and then there's nothing. It's just a long pause.
And then the acid starts bubbling in the center, and it drains down, revealing more stairs. So 33 says to follow him. Jod says to Wim, he's like, what'd I tell you? Real adventure. So this is followed by laser bolts from behind. So Jod yells, he's like, close the door. He's like, that won't hold him long. So the room starts to light up, and Wim gasps. It's like full of treasure and stuff. He or Neil, someone's like, this is so wizard. I hate when they use that. 33 almost like whispers, he's like, the coordinates will be hidden in the captain's catalog or data log or something. Jod says to focus. So he stops Wim from touching anything. He's like, Wim's like, more booby traps? And Wim asks if the plunder is booby trapped too. And he's like, oh yes, like spread out. Look for something that looks like a data port and no touching. So Neil's like, what's a data port look like? So Jod said that he would have disguised it. He's like, pirate captains would never trust their crew. It could be anything. So they look, Wim sees a lightsaber like on this little table thing. He just like stares at it. So it's like, is this a trap? Is he going to grab it? Something going to happen? But then there's this bang at the door, and Jod's like, okay, stop gawking. He's like, let's hurry this up. So Fern's like, what are we looking for? And he's like, a data port or something that looks off. Neil's like, is this something? He's like, all of the food at this table looks rotten, except for that roast. It looks fresh out of the cooker. So they gather around. Neil kind of steps up on a stool, and it collapses. There's a big trap door beneath. Jod grabs him, and the floor and the stool reset. So Jod says that he's like, I'll do it. So he gently reaches, he lifts up the roast thing, and there's like it's like a lever thing. And there's like a rumbling mechanism. This electronic control thing like pops up out of the floor. And 33 is like, 'tis the captain's log. And then he's like, 33, access this data port. So 33 asks Fern, and she looks and she nods because she doesn't know what to do. So he connects, he searches, and it looks like he found it. And because you see like on a screen, so the kids cheer, there's like a map, you see the plan, it's like, there it is. So Jod asks if he has access to the system. 33 is like, aye. He's like, refill that chamber with acid. So there's a noise, and then pirates yell, acid! And you hear screaming outside. So they have to like, they can't bang on the door anymore. So this pirate named Gunther like yelled out, Silvo! So then Jod's like, now, the treasure, is it really on a planet? Is it really on At-Atten? Is it real? And 33 is like, treasure is mentioned in the captain's log. And Jod's like, let me see the old devil. So 33 makes a flickering holo of the captain appear like on a throne. He's like, I have the ship clad in armor and ready, but my crew still doubt At-Atten is real. Neil's like, what's wrong with the picture? Because it's kind of like flickering. And Jod's like, quiet. So Renaud's like, I need all hands to seize the treasure. No one knows it is a last old Republic mint. And Jod's like, that's enough. He's like, an old Republic mint. And Wim asks Fern, he's like, what's a mint again? And she's like, it's where they make money. And Wim's like, make money? So you could have infinite money? And Neil's like, whoa. He's like, I guess it is a planet of eternal treasure. And Jod's like thinking, and he has a small smile. So then Fern's like, Jod, remember what you promised. You take us home, you get a fair reward, right? And Wim's like, yeah, we still have a deal, right? There's a big pause, and he turns, more of a pause. And Jod's like, I invoke my right to challenge the captain as per the code. And Fern's like, what? And then 33 is like, the challenge is thrown, hand-to-hand combat to the death. And Fern's like, what? 33? I'm sorry, Captain. I must follow the pirate's code. And then Jod's like, just say you yield, and I won't have to hurt you. Just say you yield. And he's like walking towards her, and she's like petrified. He's like, yield, and I won't have to hurt you. And then she's like slowly turns her back, and he's like, just say you yield. She grabs this big like mace or something, and she like swings it. He ducks back. She swings a second time, but then he stops it with the force. He like tears it out of her hands. And then he grabs her, turns her, around, holds a big blade to her throat, and she's like whimpering. And Neil's like, Jod, no. And Jod's like, I'm really sorry about this. I really am. You have to actually say it. And then she's like, you're a grown-up. You can't fight us. We're just kids. And she's like crying. It's not fair. So here's the thing. This is why Fern is so annoying, where so now she realizes, yes, you are a kid. But there's so many times it's just an episode, Tony. It's just TV. But then Wim stands up. He comes out from behind like this thing he was hiding, and he walks forward. He has a lightsaber in his hands. And Jod's like, Careful, Wim. It's not one of your stories. He turns the lightsaber on, but he has it upside down. It hits the ground by his feet, and it like almost hits his feet. He like drops it, and it like kind of screaming, and it just like kind of bounces. Jod just like kind of shakes his head. Fern is still whimpering. Wim runs over. He sits next to KB and Neil. Like, I didn't do anything. So then Jod's like, come on, say it. And she's crying. I yield. He's like, okay. He like lets her go. So 33 is like, I'm sorry, Fern. And so he calls her Fern now instead of Captain. Jod is the victor. Orders Captain Jod. He's like, we need another way out. So he takes a restraining bolt off 33. First, take this lot prisoner. Charges mutinous intent against her captain. And Wim's like, 33, no. And Neil just whimpers. And 33's like, I'm sorry, kids. Captain's orders. And then Neil's like, wait, I know. And Wim hits the stool. The floor gives out. They fall through the opening. So it's like, wait, what's underneath? Are there spikes below or something like that? Jod turns and he sees like he sees a lightsaber, calls it to his hand, turns it on as it fades to black. And that's the end of the episode. So would Jod have harmed her? I don't think he would have. So luckily, Fern didn't call his bluff. But it's not. It wasn't nice. You know, he made her cry, but you know, she's been very annoying, very bossy, and it's like, okay, you are a kid, and you know they wouldn't have gotten that far without him. But everyone keeps saying don't trust him. So is he really that bad? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, then the Doctor Who special, number 5, Joy to the World. So this is a Christmas special. And I didn't love this episode. I don't know if it was because it's a cheesy Christmas episode, but it seems like the Christmas, I remember, I don't know, it was there was a Christmas episode with Daleks. I don't know if it was a Matt Smith, I don't remember. Or maybe it was, I don't know if it was David Tennant or Matt Smith. But they used to be really cool, and I don't know, lately, I mean, last year's was fine. You know, we got to meet Ruby Sunday. But this one, I don't know. So it starts off the Queen's Hotel, Manchester, 1940. There's like air raid sirens, buildings are on fire. There's this dude in the balcony. He looks out with binoculars. The woman inside, his wife's like playing solitaire or something like that. So she's like, Basil, come close the window. There's a war on. So then, because she gets a little startled by an explosion, he tells her the cathedral's been hit, won't be much left. He's like, I used to know someone up that way. And she's like, oh, was it a woman? He's like, it was 2 women, actually. So then he's like, it's the end of everything we hold dear. Democracy will fall. But then the doctor walks in, and he says that he has a tray in his hand. It's like, ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte? And they're like surprised to see him. And since they don't like move or anything like that, he goes back through the door they came in. Basil goes to the door. He's like, it's locked. And the lady's like, that door's always been locked. Then he's like, what is that door? So then we are told that it's the Orient Express, Italy, 1962. There's this lady, she goes into like a train car room. She has a copy of Murder on the Orient Express, and there's a letter inside. So then the doctor, again, opens this door inside the car room. He offers her the same stuff, and she's like, who are you? Then he's like, wrong room, never mind. And he chuckles, because he's always like chuckling, right? Always smiling. Then it's like Base Camp Everest, 1953. There's a couple guys standing outside a tent. There's like a zipper sound. They look inside. There's some other guys in there like looking at stuff. The doctor pops in through the opening. He's like, ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte? And they all stare at him. He's like, never mind. So then at the Seringham Hotel, London, 2024, taxi pulled up. The lady goes to the desk, asks for a room for the week. And the clerk's like, single? And she's like, oh, does it show? And she chuckles. The clerk's like, room, I mean. So she's like, no humor. She shows her to her room, which is weird. So the woman who's getting the hotel room, she's from Bridgerton, I guess. I saw her in Graham Norton. I forget her name. I don't watch Bridgerton, so I don't know who she plays. But it's weird that the desk clerk walks her to her hotel room. And so the lady that gets the room, her name's Joy. I'll just put it that. She tries the door and finds it's locked. And she's like, oh, there's always a door like this in a hotel room. A funny locked one. The clerk just like nods, like whatever. And she's like, I'll get you some towels, which is weird. So you don't keep towels in the room. I mean, maybe if you don't have a lot of customers, you know, they're going to get dingy or musty. But then So Joy is in their room, in the room alone. A fly buzzes, and she's like, "Oh, hello, Merry Christmas." She's like, "My name is Joy." She's like, "Welcome to my room." And I thought I was going to be lonely. And she's like, "Okay." She opens a drawer, pulls out a hair dryer, which is weird. It's like, why is the hair dryer in the bathroom? It's like totally like by the window, away from the bathroom. Then that door, like the joining door room, opens, and this like green lizard like alien in a suit walks in with like a briefcase. She turns startled, and like raises the blow dryer, and then the alien like raises his arms, and he's like, "The star seed will bloom and the flesh will rise." And she's like, "What?" It's like, "What is going on?" Then the doctor steps in behind him with a tray of stuff. He looks at Joy and he smiles, which is like, why? And then we get the Doctor Who intro. So then it cuts to London Christmas 4202. So we see like the futuristic city, and then it's a time hotel. The TARDIS arrives in the lobby. The doctor comes out in a robe with 2 coffee mugs. He goes to the counter. There's like some coffee dispenser things, whatever. Then he hears a man at the desk ask for a room on the 3rd floor. So he has a briefcase chained to his wrist. And this is like a normal looking dude. So then this guy comes up to the doctor and he's like, "Refreshments are for hotel guests only. Are you a guest at the hotel?" And the doctor's like, "Nah, not me." It's like, "I bring my own room. I just need some milk. Got a Navcom algorithm that homes in on fresh milk." He's like, "I mean, I could just get a fridge." And the guy's like, "Sorry, that is that a toilet?" And the doctor's like, "Is it a what?" And he's like, "You've got a newspaper," because he's like, "Is he going to the toilet?" But then the doctor's like, "And a coffee." He's like, "Who takes a coffee to the loo?" And the guy's like, "Each their own." He's like, "Is somebody else in there?" Because he has 2 mugs. And he's like, "Ah, yes." He's like, "Habit." He's like, "I never get used to them leaving." He's like, "Here." He hands him the coffee. He's like, "Keep the mug. It's bigger on the inside." It's like, it's this like a magic TARDIS mug. So he goes inside. Then he takes off his robe and puts on his coat on. Then he's like, "Okay, so I just put out my coat on. Why did I do that?" He reaches for a sonic screwdriver on the console. He's like, "Oh, and now I'm getting the sonic?" It's like, "What did I see?" He smiles, pops his head out, sees the guy with the briefcase. He's like, "Oh, yeah, of course. You, mysterious Mr. You." So then that one worker guy comes over again. He's like, "No, this box wasn't here a moment ago. How did it get in here?" So then the doctor holds up his psychic ID badge. He's like, "Special Agent Clint Rock. I've been sent by the head office. This goes all the way up to the top." He's like, "Look, I've got my own toilet." He's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Trev, sir." And then the doctor's like, "You're working for me now, Trev. Stroll with me." And Trev says that he's like, he hasn't noticed anything dangerous. And the doctor's like, "That guy, Mr. Suit guy." He's like, "What do we think?" And he's like, "That he's not doing anything." And the doctor's like, "And he keeps not doing it again and again and again." So he's just literally just standing there like frozen. He's like, "He hasn't looked up and he said this is his first visit." Trev's like, "So?" He's like, "The atrium." So like this huge like domed room that goes like way up, and everything's like golden, very ornate, massive golden Christmas tree behind the desk. So the doctor's like, "I mean, check out the atrium up there. Anyone would look, up on their first visit." So it just goes way up. Trev's like, "We're not looking up." And the doctor's like, "Because we're on a top secret dangerous mission." "What mission is he on with a briefcase chained to his wrist?" So then the dude is told that his room won't be ready until the other occupant vacates, so he can have a drink at the bar. And he like walks off. Trev asks the doctor if they're going to follow him. And the doctor's like, "Oh, I hate following people," because I think he says that he has to stare at their behind or something. I don't know. So he's looking at a brochure. He's like, "The Time Hotel." It's like, "What's that then? What does that mean?" So he sees in a lobby, there's like some Victorian dressed women. There's like a window display for like any era's clothes. Some guests arrive in like furs, like with wooden weapons. They have drinks. There's ancient Egyptians at the counter. So he's like, "All human history now available as mini breaks. Is that how it works?" And Trev's like, "I thought you said you were from the head office. Don't you know how it works?" And the doctor's like, "I like to enter investigations with my mind completely blank. I fit in better." And Trev's like, "Should I make my mind blank too, sir?" And doctor's like, "It may not be necessary in your case, Trev. So a hotel, but instead of rooms, time portals, yeah?" It's like, "Oh, that stone door up there, is that actual stone live from the Stone Age? Live." And then there's another one, live from a submarine. And he's like, "Mesopotamia?" He's like, "Oh, come on." Because there's a door that's like crooked. He's like, "That's got to be Pisa." And Trev's like, "Yeah, Pisa." So he reads a brochure,
ancient Rome, the fall of Troy, your favorite assassination, like package deals for all of history's biggest hits. There's like it was like a Lincoln and Kennedy like 2-for-1 special or something like that. It's like, who wants to see assassinations? But then he's like, no wonder there's no room at the inn. And then he asks the desk clerk if there's any room service menus available in the lobby. He turns to Trev and says that this solves the biggest mysteries in the known universe. Like, why is there always an extra door in your hotel room, and why is it always locked? So the doctor's like, because that is the way to the Time Hotel. Speaking of the inn, is this Christmas? And Trev's like, yes, we're doing a special Christmas everywhere all at once. So the doctor gets a menu. He asks Trev, he's like, what it'll be? And he mentions the ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte. As soon as the doctor scans the corner to like pay, this lady comes out with a tray, and he's impressed. Trev kind of like proudly says that the kitchens are 30 minutes in the future, so they start preparing your food before you order. It saves time. And the doctor's like, it's still microwave though. And Trev's like, well, you can't expect miracles. So the doctor's like, right, I am going undercover. You are going to be my point man down here. He's like, have you got a radio or something? So Trev's like, yeah. He like taps his temple. He's like, it's implanted, sir. Psychic graft. It's very efficient. It still calls my mom if I forget to flush, which is weird. So the doctor puts the sonic up to his head. He's like, my code name is the Doctor. Just say doctor and it will put you through to me. He's like, tell me the minute Mr. Briefcase leaves the bar. He's like, I'm going to check out the time portals. And Trev's like, why? He's like, because, Trev, that is where Mr. Briefcase wants to go. Lesson 1 of the only meaningful way to follow someone is to get there first. So he grabs a tray. He's like, there, look at me. I'm undercover. Now I am room service. So Trev's like, I won't let you down, sir. In the bar, Mr. Briefcase, his eyes kind of like shudder sideways at the bartender. And then he's like, the star seed will bloom and the flesh will rise. So that's what the lizard guy said before. This bartender's like, excuse me? And then he's like, the suit guy's like, could you put my case behind the bar, please? So then the handcuff comes off and it attaches onto the bartender's wrist. And then an automated voice says, access upgrading. So then the dude gets kind of lightheaded, the suit guy. He like stumbles towards the table. He's like confused. He's like, what do I do now? Then the bartender's eyes like blink like sideways, like shudder. He's like, make yourself comfortable and don't attract attention. You should be dead quite shortly. So the guy gasps. And he's like, the star seed will bloom and the flesh will rise. So the doctor exits onto this other level, out of the elevator. Trev is standing outside the bar entrance. Then the bartender kind of pops out. He's like, Trev, can you give me a hand in here? And then he's like, somebody left his case inside. So he hands it to Trev. The cuff attaches to Trev, and then you hear access upgrading. So Trev is like worried and confused. Then he looks at the suit guy, and he like dissolves. So then Trev's like, this isn't good, is it? And then the bartender dissolves, which seems like pretty fast for him. Why is he dissolving so quickly if the other guy didn't? But then Trev's like, oh no. He's like, but I was on a mission. So the doctor hits a button to room, but the computer says that the room is not available. While guests, local to the time period are still in residence, the room is not available to the Time Hotel. So he uses Sonic, he unlocks it. It's the first room with Basil and the lady during the war. Then we see him on a train, then at the tent. So Trev goes to the front desk. The green lizard alien is behind it. So Trev robotically says, the star seed will bloom and the flesh will rise. And then he apologizes. And he's like, can I just check? You have priority access to all the time portals, haven't you? And the dude's like, yes, Trev, I'm the manager. So he didn't even offer the suitcase or anything, but it just says access upgrading, and the cuff like falls off his wrist. The doctor returns from the tent, seems confused. He squats down to like lock it. Then the manager exits the elevator and like walks past him. The doctor notices the briefcase. He starts to follow him. He calls Trev, who stumbles like into a booth at the bar. The manager enters the door, and Trev says to himself, like, oh dear, I went and let him down. And poor Trev dissolves. So it's like, I thought there'd be some way for him to get out of it, but he's gone. So the doctor enters Joy's door where the manager had his hands up. He excitedly says like, oh, hello. He says that to Joy. And he's like, good work. Keep him covered. He's like, who are you then? She's like, I'm Joy. Could somebody... And then Joy's front desk clerk just like walks in without even looking. She has a towel. And then she gets like startled by everything. So Joy's like, could somebody tell me what's going on? Why is there a lizard man in my room? The front desk lady's like, I'm sorry. It's like, this has never happened before. So the doctor's like, question, what is in that case? Can I see? And the clerk's like, I'm just going to put these towels in the bathroom. The lizard man's like, he's like, take it. He's the suitcase to the doctor. So you hear access upgrading. And the doctor's like, and then what happens? And the dude's like, take it and all will be explained. The doctor's like, I do like an explanation. And Joy's like, I'd like an explanation. And to the doctor, the dude's like, take it and understand. And Joy's like, excuse me, hello, I would also like to understand, and it's my room. So, and the doctor's like, can you just leave us with this for a moment? And she's like, what, am I away in my own room? So the guy's like, take the case. We detect power in you. And she's like, excuse me, hello? The doctor's like, well, you've got that right. Who's we? And Joy's like, am I even in this conversation? And the doctor's like, look, sorry, could you just let me get on with this, please? And she's like, sorry, am I in the way? Oh, this is just men all over, isn't it? Even lizard men. And the doctor's like, he is a Silurian. Don't call him a lizard man. And she's like, yeah, but it's just a mask, isn't it? Or are you two having a sort of game? I know about these hotels. And the Silurian's like, the star seed will bloom and the flesh will rise. So the doctor's like, okay, funny thing. I saw someone else with that case, and now you have it. That doesn't make any sense. He was a guest, and you're the manager, according to your name badge. What happened to the first guy who had it? And he's like, take the case, and you will know. And the doctor's like, gotta be honest, I'm tempted. And Joy's like, shut up, the two of you. I'm taking a case. And they both yell, no, and it cuffs around her. And the doctor tells her to stay very still. So the manager starts getting woozy. The front desk lady, she just leaves like nothing happened. Then the manager is like, what do I do now? And Joyce says that his motor skills will cease. He'll be dead in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. And the doctor's like, dead? What do you mean dead? So, she told him like lay down on the bed or something like that. So the doctor jumps over to him and he's like, hold on, no dying. I'm not having that. So Joy uses the manager key card and like opens the door. The doctor's like telling him, he's like, you are Silurian. You're the proudest original race of Earth. He's like, now you're the manager of a time hotel. It's like, wow, tell me your story. And he says that he was lost in a cave. There was this door, and then there's this place, and they were so kind. The doctor's like, stay alive for those guys. And he's like, it was so exciting. And then he dissolves. So Joy, standing in the doorway, says that, that was a bit sad, wasn't it? So he tells her, like, what happened to him will happen to her. But she repeats the star, whatever seed will flesh will that's. And he's like, that's not you speaking. It's an implanted command. So he's like, you're being mansplained by a briefcase. And she says that she thought she was being mansplained by him. He's like, honey, what, the doctor's in the room? It's mansplained central. And she's like, I'm getting that. Do you even know what the starseed is? And the doctor's like, okay, no, you've got me there. He's like, let's take a look, shall we? So he pulls her back into the room, and she kind of protests, not to do that. He's like, you don't even know what you're saying. He's like, so let's find out. He opens it, stares. There's like this glowing yellow energy orb in like some like tech casing in the briefcase. So he kind of marvels at it. An automated voice like, please reseal the starseed containment unit within 20 seconds, or the current case holder will be disintegrated with extreme prejudice. So timer starts, start counting down from 20. He keeps looking. Joy's like, what are you doing? It's like, can you close it? It's like, it's going to disintegrate me. And he's like, good, you care about dying again. That means the control has loosened. She's like, but I'm actually going to die. He's like, not for several seconds. He's like, what is this for? Why did you bring it to the time hotel? I feel like I'm missing something obvious. She's like, close the case. He's like, quiet, please. I don't like being rushed. She's like, close it. And then finally he's like, there, close, bags of time. So then this like little thing pops out. To complete closure of the starseed containment unit, please enter your 4-digit security code, or the current case holder will be disintegrated. So now there's only 15 seconds. And the doctor's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I mean, 4 digits, that, narrows it down to a possible 10,000 numbers. It's like, I could figure it out if I just had time. It's like the time hotel. And she's like, what? He's like, I couldn't use the TARDIS again. That would engage the causal nexus, but in this hotel, the time zones are physically connected. They're already interacting. So in theory, and he's like, come in, the doctor barges in, and he's like, 7214. So there's like 2 doctors now. There's 2 of him. So the doctor enters the code. Joey's like, who are you? And he's like, him, me. And then the code works. So the second doc says that it's stabilizing, she's safe, and she stammers like, how can there be 2 of you? The doctor's like, there aren't. So the doctor's like, he's the future. He's the me after I get the code. But then the second one's like, I'm not the future. It's like, he is the past. It's like, the future is this way. He's like, come on. And then the first doctor's like, no. It's like, how does this work? How do I get to be you? And the second one's like, the long way around. And the first one's like, yes, how long? Second one's like, you'll find out. And the first one's like, what do I do? Where do I go? Second one's like, you'll find out. And the first one's like, oh, do you see? He's like, this is why nobody likes you. You have to be so mysterious all the time. That's why everyone leaves you. That's why you're always alone. The second one's like, you have to stay here. Complete the loop. It's the only way to get the code. I'm going to break the connection. And then from the hall, she's like, but how did you get the code? And he's like, it's a long story. Basically, then he closes the door. So the doctor reaches for the door, but it's locked. So now he's like frustrated. He's like, do you know how alone you are? You live in a great big giant spaceship and there aren't any chairs. You haven't even noticed because nobody ever comes around. He like slams the door and then calmly he's like, oh my God, I don't have any chairs. So he just realized that. So he grabs a Sonic, uses it. The door opens, but then there's just like a brick wall behind it. So he comes down the stairs. He goes to the front desk lady. He's like, this is Christmas 2024. Yeah? She's like, yeah. He's like, okay. And he looks at the brochure. There's Christmas Eve 2025, Exeter Hotel, New York. He's like, okay, so there's no way back to the Time Hotel for a whole year. And she's like, what are you going on about? He's like, the Solarian's gone. Joy is gone. Could I have that room for a whole year? She's like, a year? He's like, I'm going to need money. Remind me, where do I get money from again? He's like, what is your name? And she's like, Anita. He looks around. He's like, Anita, do you need anything done around here? So then we see him serving food in like the hotel dining area. He's like, here we are, guys. Sorry about the delay. And then Dad's like, we haven't ordered yet. And Doctor holds up his billfold. He's like, psychic paper. The mom's like, why do I have jelly and biscuits? He's like I said, psychic. She's like, I'm on a diet. And he looks at the paper again. He's like, that's what it's picking up. So I don't know if she really wanted, I don't know what it was. Then he's like mopping. Actually, he's just standing at the top of the stairs and the mop is like beeping and mopping on its own. Anita kind of walks around the corner stairs and he's like, okay. And she's like, yeah. So she doesn't even question it. She just keeps walking. Then it's New Year's. She asks, what does odd lang syne mean? And he's like, time's long past, that's all. Not forgetting old friends. And he glances at the phone on the desk and kind of chuckles. And she's like, who are you not phoning? He just keeps looking at it. It's pretty obvious what he's like, nobody. And she's like, name? So he's like, Ruby Sunday. And she's like, what's the problem with Ruby? He's like, oh, no problem. Just got to let people get on with their lives. So then there's another scene in the kitchen. She goes to the microwave and he says like, oh, it should be working now. So she's like, but is it bigger on the inside? And he's like, is it not supposed to be? So he did something to the microwave now. Then he's on a ladder. She hands him a plunger and says there's a blockage in 28. And he like stares. She's like, is this armed? So I don't know, did he think it's a Dalek or something? Part of a Dalek. So then he's doing work outside. She gets out of her car. She's like, you said you fixed my sat nav. He's like, I did. She's like, it doesn't take me anywhere I want to go. He's like, but it takes you where you need to go. And she's like, and why is my car blue now? Because it's like a TARDIS. Not really. Then he's sitting at the desk in a hotel room. There's like little TARDIS, like little police boxes on a shelf. There's lots of papers and drawings, calculations pinned to the wall. She walks in. She marvels at the sunlight outside. And she says she loves it when the clocks go forward. And she's like, don't you? And he's like, yeah. Then she's like, what's with the little police boxes? And he says, reminders of home. And she's like, well, where do you get them? He's like, online. He's like, for some reason, there's loads of them. So I don't know what the point of that line was. But then she says that she likes them. And he says, like, oh, they like you too. So he's like, I can tell. Then he tells her to have a chair. And he's like, sit with me. And she's confused. So then we see them eating Chinese food while laughing, having conversations in his room. And then, another time playing some game. He says that, or she says this is her favorite night of the week. He's like, yeah, chair night. So more days, and then we hear like them playing Twister, playing Clue, Connect 4. He's standing by the door, and he asks if any other rooms have doors like that. And she's like, well, they're mostly cupboards, except in the honeymoon suite. He's like, show me right now. So he's looking, there's a brick wall with a Sonic, and says that the connection to the Time Hotel isn't active, so he can't get through. There's actually a couple in the bed in blankets, and like they're all pulled up. They look concerned. Anita says, she's like, I don't have a clue what he's talking about. So then there's another day, they're sitting like on a fire escape in the sun, and she asks, what's he waiting for? And he's like, oh, nothing. So then it finally gets to December 2025. He comes down, there's no one there. He puts a little present on a desk. It's a little police box because the shape of it. And she walks up behind him. So you're not going to be here for Christmas then? Sneaking off without saying goodbye? He's like, just off for a few days. And she's like, I've heard that one before. And he says that he has a slightly complicated life. And she's like, oh, you're married? He's like, no. He's like, it's not that. He's like, it's just I don't usually live like this, one day after another in the right order. And I've always wondered what it would be like. And you know what it was like? And she like shakes her head. He's like, amazing. He's like, you know why it was amazing? And she's like, she doesn't know. He's like, a whole year of you. It's like, wow, everyone who knows you is so lucky. I bet they tell you that all the time. And she's like, well, one time actually, one guy. So I don't know if she was talking about the doctor or someone else. He's like, but I have things to do. Promises to keep. And she's like, I always knew you were going. You look after yourself, okay? Never be alone at Christmas. Think of me sometimes for old long sin. I can never say that. And he's like, for old long sin, and they hug. So that's sad. Then New York, Christmas Eve, 2025, Exeter Hotel. The doctor is like, how do you get there? I don't know where they were at, but now they're in New York, or he's in New York. He goes, gets a room. The mysterious door warbles, and he uses a sonic. He goes across the hall, and then he opens the door. 7214. So it's a scene we saw before. Then he's about to go, and Joy's like, how did you know the code? The doctor says it's a long story. He looks onto the chair because he's thinking back. He's like, but basically, then he closes the door. He's like, I heard myself say it a year ago, and I remembered it. So Joy's confused. He says, basically, the code came from nowhere, but then so did the universe, and no one complains about that. So basically, it's almost like a cop-out. That there's no way for him to know the code. He just knew it, but there's no explanation as to how he knew it. Just because he waited a year and heard himself, whatever. So she says that, he never got the code. She's like, when did you get the code? And then she asks if he time traveled to get it. And he's like, no, time travel, no time travel involved. That would cause a paradox. He's like, in this hotel, the time zones are already physically linked. So they're paradox proof. And so he breaks connection to the door so the doctor can't come through. And she's like, when you explain things, do people feel any better? He's like, not usually, no. Then at the door he whispers, he's like, take care. He's like, you be kind, you'll miss her. And then she's like, the star seed. And he's like, yes, the star seed. Oh, I have had a long time to think about it. I'm pretty sure I figured it out. I even know why they need the time hotel. So then she says the phrase, and he stares, she starts walking. And he's like, he resealed the case, and now it's reasserting control. He's like, Joy, you need to fight it. So then he's like, the assassination of Julius Caesar? He's like, well, that won't do, will it? So you're scouting for the right time, the right time zone. And she's like, my room wasn't far enough back, and neither is this. She's like, I think we'll need the top floor. And he's like, for what? Do you even understand what you're trying to accomplish? And she's like, yes. So he says that what he's figured out is there's a simple atom in that case, and in that atom, a chain reaction that has already begun. He's like, do you know what that chain reaction will lead to? And she's like, the star seed will bloom. And he's like, a star will be born. Yes, big Bernie bang in theory, but no one's ever been able to test that theory because it would take too long. Thousands of years, maybe more. No one knows. And she's like, you do like to talk, don't you? So to get in the elevator, he talks about spending a year in the hotel room she chose. He asks her if she knows what you can tell from a hotel room. And she's like, nothing. He's like, everything. He's like, a house is a disguise. It is a fortress. You can hide yourself away. It's like a hotel room. That's you without makeup. It's what you think you need, not a selfie you posed for. He's like, more like catching yourself in the mirror. And then he's like, what's your mirror telling you, Joy? Because your room was the worst, loneliest, saddest hotel room in the world. What kind of person, what kind of sad sack human train wreck puts themselves in a room like that at Christmas? So it's like, ouch. So she stares at him with like disdain, and then her breath shaking, but then the elevator stops and she gets off and he's like smiling. She's like, questions for you. Seriously, when you tell people your name, do they laugh? And she stops walking. She's like, excuse me? He's like, when you come in, all smiles and apologies and don't mind me's, and you say, I'm Joy, does everyone burst out laughing? It's like, when your mother looked at you in a squishy little baby face and named you Joy, was it a joke? Do you think she was having a laugh? So Joy turns around, don't you dare talk about my mother. He's like, I would love to meet her. She sounds like a riot. And she's like, she's dead. And he like clicks his tongue. And she's like, she died in hospital. I couldn't even visit. I had to talk to her on an iPad because of the rules. He's like, oh, the rules. And I bet you're good at obeying the rules. Funny, smiley, I'll be no trouble, little you. And she's like, don't you say that. Don't you say that. So then she enters this room. There's like a hammock. There's birds chirping. There's monkeys chattering. It's kind of like a bamboo room. And there's like this big opening. You see like just a forest and stuff like that. So he's like, never mind poor old mom, right? As long as good little girl is obeying all the rules. So Joy's like, she died on Christmas Day. Christmas Day. And she like shoves him. So she's like really getting angry. She's like, and I said goodbye on an iPad because of the rules. She died alone, and those awful people and their wine fridges and their dancing and their parties, and I listened to them, and I let my mother die alone, and I can never be home on Christmas Day, and I can never be with anyone on Christmas Day because I let her down. I let her down on the last day of her life. I can't even change that. I can't ever change it. And she's like sobbing, and he pulls her in, and he's like, mums, even when they're gone, they never stop saving us. He's like, look, Joy, look at what's not in your hands. And then the suitcase is like on the edge of like the lookout area. And she's like, when did you do that? He's like, sorry, yeah, made you angry to wake you up. It's kind of like post-hypnotic suggestion. You can break it down with strong emotion. And she's like, thank you. He's like, you're thinking maybe that wasn't a good way to save your life? There's no such thing as a bad way. I'm sorry, Joy. And they hug. And she's like, it was the star. He's like, that's just the conditioning talking. It will pass. I'm not the bad guy here, Joy. Let's meet the bad guys. Wherever there's a corporation, there is a PR, the evil must logo. Because there's like, some PR thing in a suitcase or whatever. Or like the logo or whatever, corporation mentioned. So he uses Sonic, and this like holo logo pops up. And she's like, conflict solutions? And he's like, villain guard. Biggest arms manufacturer in recorded history. Very old enemies of mine. So that's what we saw in the last season. There's like those robot hospital nanny things. It's like all villain guard, whatever. And she's like, why would a weapons manufacturer want to make a star and then villain guard Q&A activated? Villain guard is engaged in the creation of a customizable energy source, which is functionally infinite. And he's like, and definitely insane. And she's like, doctor, that voice. I know that voice. And you hear, hello again. So it's a Solarian, and there's like holo pops up at him. It's like, my consciousness has been uploaded to the communications interface for user convenience. And then the doctor's like, if a star seed goes boom anywhere on Earth at any point in history, it will burn every living thing. Tell that to your users. Villain Guard respects the collateral sacrifice made by all participating innocent life forms, regardless of race, species. And the doctor's like, the thing is, you got your sums all wrong. I've been scanning your star seed, and you don't have enough time. Nowhere near enough time to grow a star. So then Joy hears like a growling and then like a thud. She's like, doctor? But the doctor's like, I mean, clever idea, the time hotel, but human history is only a few thousand years long. You're going to need a lot longer than that, like way longer. According to my calculations, you would need it to check into the time hotel 65 million years ago. And there's a T-Rex, chomps down on the suitcase, and it goes in its mouth, and then it swallows it. So then the tree hut kind of like tilts. They start sliding like towards the T-Rex mouths, but they are able to stop themselves with their feet. They're able to scramble out the door. And he's like, are you okay? And then he's like, okay, many things about this are suboptimal. And then she's like, so dinosaurs were 65 million years ago, yeah? He's like, fine, bring that up, why don't you? That speech was going really well. She's like, so that means about now, about my time, the whole world is going to burn. He's like, but that wouldn't be part of the plan. Villain Guard would have to pick up the case again just before the detonation. How would they find it? They would have to send a signal to you, the last case carrier. They would send a telepathic message to you. She's like, I'm not getting a message. He's like, because the link got severed. I forced a break. I damaged the connection. I screwed up, Joy. And then the sonic beeps, and she's like, why is your thing buzzing? And he's like, listen, all of me is pretty stressed. And she's like, no, your zappy thing. And he's like, this is a sonic screwdriver. Actually, zappy thing makes more sense. So she grabs it, it beeps, and a little holo of Trev appears. And he says his name. He's like, reporting for duty. And the doctor's like, Trev? He's like, hello again, sir. I hope all is going well. My mission is proceeding broadly as planned. And I have exceeded my personal expectations. And it gives me hope for the future, except I'm dead. The doctor's like, you're what? Sorry? You're what? He's like, I'm part of the star now, sir. My consciousness has been uploaded to the Villengard communication interface. So the doctor's like, you're inside the star? He's like, yes, sir. How are you even talking to me? So he says that the psychic graft has been duplicated virtually, so he was able to connect it to the briefcase communication software. So he's had several million years to work it out. He's like, the star seed is about to detonate, so we have to get it off-world. And the doctor's like, why would you be helping me? You're part of Villengard now. And he's like, as I told you a very long time ago, I will not let you down, sir. And the doctor's like, I love you, Trev. I totally, absolutely love you. And he's like, but I need you to tell me exactly when and where you are. I know you're stuck inside there, but the case will have sensors. Can you get access to air density, humidity, temperature, anything I can use to narrow it down? And Trev's like, I'll run those numbers straight away, sir. Oh, and in the meantime, if it helps, we're in room 48. So they run. So in this cave, it's almost like an Indiana Jones type room. There's like this temple, there's torches, there's like this big thing in the middle, like a pillar with this big, like almost like a door with like this handle or something like that, big stone thing. So they say that it's inside the stone pillar, but it looks like it's man-made. And Joy says it looks like it's a shrine. And he says that the case emits a psychic field, so possesses people. And it's like, did it just possess her? The doctor asks Trev how long until detonation. Trev says 4.5 millennia. And the doctor's like, do you want to run those numbers again, Trev? He's like, 4.5 minutes, sir. And the doctor's like, oh, great. He's like, we need rope. And he says, like, I'm very good with rope. He tells Joy to stay there. So he goes to the base camp. He tries stealing a rope and a grappling hook. And he gets spotted. They're like, what are you doing? He's like, why are you taking our equipment? And the doctor's like, because it was there. So he takes the rope, he guides it through the door. Then he's on the Orient Express. He goes in that lady's room. He goes past her, like into the hall. He uses Sonic, opens the back door. And then somehow he's like on top of the train. It's like they don't show him climbing up there. But he's up there swinging the grapple around his head for a while. And then he throws it, must catch on a track or something. And then the rope like goes back. It's like, getting pulled through the train car at the hotel room. And then it's tied to the like stone pillar thing, to like the handle, and the stone panels, the big like panel is yanked off of the base of the pillar, and it gets like caught in the doorway. Somehow the rope comes unhooked, which I don't understand why it didn't come unhooked before, and it goes back through the train. So Joy like looks in, like she sees a briefcase, it opens, and she's like, it's okay, don't worry, you're going to be fine. We can do this. You and I want you to live. So the doctor goes back through the train into the lady's room, and I don't know if she's supposed to be Agatha Christie or whatever, and she sees that he's stepping on a letter that she had before that was in her book. So being nosy, he reads it. He's like, you are better off without him. His sentence structure is appalling. She grabs it. She's like, I wrote this letter. Then he's like, great letter. I was like, you should send it to him. And she's like, to her. And he's like, glad I could help. So what on earth was the point of that scene? I don't know. I mean, there's been some question like, has Agatha Christie, was she a lesbian? There's like some lesbian characters and whatever. I don't know why they had that scene. It just took up time. Because then running across the hotel room, he asks Trev's like, how long have we got? And Trev's like, sorry, doctor, it's about to detonate. It's because of the train scene, right? So he gets to the temple room. The stone is kind of blocking the doors. He looks and he sees like the doors opened at the pillar thing. He calls out to Joy. He climbs over the stone. And in the pillar, there's like stairs leading up, and the star is like not in the briefcase. So he calls Joy again. Goes up the long flight of stairs. He sees Joy on a cliffside, with her like back to him. She's looking, forward, and there's like a glow in front of her. She turns around, the glow is inside her. And she's like, I was hoping you'd come back to say goodbye. She's like, you're very lovely, But it's like, how would you know she was with him for like 2 minutes? So he's like, Joy, the starseed. And she's like, is in me now. It's in all of us. And then she changes to the suit guy, the bartender, the Trev who gives 2 thumbs up. He's like, mission accomplished. And then the manager, Silurian, and then back to Joy. So it's like, was a briefcase guy the first guy that did this? There's no one else? She's like, the starseed will bloom. It's like, don't worry. We'll be far from here, deep in the sky. No one will be hurt. And you know what? I'm saving the world. He's like, Joy, I'm supposed to be saving you. I will not allow Villengard to do this to you, not to any of you. And she's like, Villengard are nothing. We are far beyond them now. And Doctor's like, listen, you don't understand, Joy. You will burn. You will die. And she's like, don't be silly. Of course I won't. I'm not dying. I'm changing. I'm saving something beautiful. The flesh will rise and the star will shine. I will shine everywhere and forever. And sometimes my funny little doctor on you. Why is she calling him funny little doctor? Because you need to change too. And he's like, excuse me? She's like, my hotel room. All those things you said about me. He's like, Joy, I just had to make you angry. I told you. She's like, everything you said was true. All of it, doctor. He like sighs. And then she's like, you stayed in that room for a year. And then he kind of smiles and chuckles. And he's like, it wasn't so bad. Nice chairs. She's like, you need to find a friend. Do that. Go and find one now. I'll be watching. So she starts to float up. You see, doctor, you see? My mom was right, wasn't she? I'm Joy, and I'm going to see her again. And she's going to be with me. So she shimmers away, gets brighter, and flies off. So then Basil and his wife are standing on the balcony, and he's like, there's hope, And he's like, you've got to cling to that. And then there's like staring at a star in the sky, bright star. On a train, the lady like tears up the letter, and she looks out the window. You can see like a star reflecting. At the mountain base camp, like one dude asks, he's like, do you think the weather will hold, my friend? The other's like, of course it will. It's in the stars. Ruby Sunday, she's staring out the window at the star. Her phone buzzes. It's her mom. She talks to her. Anita is vacuuming. She looks at the little police box that she got. She picks it up. She looks at the star. Everyone's looking at the star. The secret door opens with a warble. This lady walks out and says that you come highly recommended by an old friend of yours, I believe. And she hands her this card. Would you be interested in working at the Time Hotel? Inside the card it says, for all long sin. And she's like, looks at the lady, but she doesn't answer. So is she going to take the job or not? Then London 2020. Joy's talking to her mom on the iPad, so we see like her mom's hospital room. Joy says that she'll see her very soon. She's like, as soon as this nonsense is over, she's like, I'll be right in there. Her mom's like smiling. And Joy's like, you be brave. She's like, Merry Christmas. And I can't wait to see you properly. So her mom puts her hand like on the screen, and Joy's like, bye. So her mom leans back, looks out and sees the star. And then she starts to shine. And she's like, Joy. And parts of her like shimmer up to the sky. So she dies and becomes one to the star. The doctor standing on the mountainside looking up. And he's like, Joy, of course you are. You're Joy. Joy to the world. Oh my gosh. He actually said that. And the camera pans up. You see this little village. There's camels. There's lights. And then the screen's like Bethlehem 0001. And that's the end. And it says, Doctor Who will return. So 2025 we'll get more episodes. So that was it. I was just like, it was fine, but yeah, it wasn't great. So I was thinking, because first it's like, okay, so I knew Joy wasn't going to be his new companion, because on Graham Norton, the actress said, she mentioned she just did this one episode or whatever. But then it's like, is the hotel clerk, is Anita going to be his companion? But nope, I guess not. So we'll have to wait and see, who's going to be his next companion or friend or whatever you want to call them. That was it. That was a Christmas special.
All right, and now Silo, season 2, episode 7, The Dive. I feel like this is going to be a long episode. So Bernard takes Lucas to a room. He's like, you're about to be privy to something that only a handful of people in our history have had access to. He opens up the vault. He's like, after you. He closes the door behind him. Knox meets with a couple guys. So they have something and they're like, that should be enough. So Knox like, where are you keeping the rest of it? And the guy's like, it's safe. He's like, just be careful with it. Knox pretends to drop like the little canister thing and catches it. And the guy calls him an a-hole, but's like smiling. Shirley and some other guy are in the cafeteria. People are coming up to them, giving them paper, like folders or what, or it's like a bunch of stuff or something like that. Guy's like says it's not much, and she's like, they're mechanical. A little goes a long way, and so this is gonna make a difference. The guy with her, I forget the other guy's name. He takes like all the papers and goes off. So Bernard says he's like with Kyle. He's like, state your name and new position. So he's like, Lucas Kyle, IT Shadow. So the computer makes like a holo image of him. Verified. Welcome, Lucas Kyle. Then Bernard's like, the living quarters are that way. You will live here while you familiarize yourself with the legacy. The food is all right. The bed is comfortable. Then he brings him into his big room, like shelves of like relics and stuff or whatever, I think. I was like looking carefully, like, what's in there? Mechanical does something with the thing that Knox got. It was like pours something in a something. So at first you're like, wait, what's going on? What are they doing? Bernard and Kyle looking at a model of the solar systems hanging in this big room. And he's like, the lights in the sky are called, and Lucas like, stars. He's like, that's what Judge Meadows said. He's like, all these relics, where did they come from? And Bernard's like, technically, they're not all relics. They are the whole of human history, knowledge, art. The books you see here are a fraction of the vault's library. All of these and more than you can imagine are stored digitally on this. And he hands him like a tablet. He's like, when I was first handed that, I searched for answers to the questions that we all have had. And all I found out is that the silo was built 352 years ago. And beyond that, nothing about why it was built or why we are here. Right now, the only thing that matters is breaking Salvador Quinn's code. So the stars will have to wait. So why would I want to decipher the code now? And Luke is like, it implies that there is a problem, potentially unsolvable, that you know nothing about. And a problem like that, especially one which Salvador Quinn went to such great lengths to conceal, is potentially more dangerous than a rebellion. And Bernard's like, yes. And then Luke is like, how do, with the tablet? And he's like, ask it. And, the tablet. And he's like, ask it. So Bernard takes it. He's like, Lucas would like information on the secret codes and ciphers. And then some stuff pops up. He's like, lucky you, several of those are actual books. And Mechanical, they light a fuse. So the fuse like falls off, some goes, but then Shirley like, no. And then whoosh, so this big canister thing, rocket shoots up the silo. So a computer says, Mayor Holland, there is a delta vent in the central shaft. So the rocket goes up. It doesn't hit the top. It just like kind of hangs for a second. And then the top pops off and a parachute pops out. And then it starts like spitting out like paper, almost like confetti, but it's bigger. Bernard jogs down the hall. People are talking. They're reading the paper. Bernard comes out, asks Admonson, like, what was it? And he's like, I don't know, but it smells like gunpowder. So Bernard grabs a piece of fluttering paper. He unrolls it. It says, IT lies to us. Mechanical wants the truth. What happened to Juliet? How did Meadows really die? What is IT hiding? Look and see. So Shirley and Knox shut down the power to silo. And someone's like, why is the power on in IT? And others like, tell us the truth. So Bernard runs the IT. So Solo in the other silo, Solo is like, want my help? And she's like, nope, I just want my fudging suit back. So she looks at some cables and stuff in the room. And he's like, the pump you want to restart is 8. She's like, yeah, it's 8 levels underwater. So she makes some more like adjustments like that. And she's like, look, if you had 300 feet of waterproof power line lying around in the vault, that'd be great. Or how about you figure out how to get me to a waterproof cable, 300 feet of tubing, and then something to push air down so I don't drown. And meanwhile, you give me my suit so I can go back to my silo. He's like, no, you know I can't let you. She's like, I'll come back, I promise. When I've saved my people in my silo, I'll come back. He's like, you've got time. They don't. He's like, come on, you've got time. Just please, I promise. He's like, yeah, but what if your suit fails and you die out there? She's like, no. What if you get there and they don't let you in and you don't have enough air to come back? She's like, if they see me coming, they're gonna. Or what if, like, no, what if they let you in and they kill you? She's like, they're not gonna kill me, no. So they can't kill you, and then you explain like, oh, it's dangerous outside, and not to make the same mistakes that we made here, and they just let you go back outside? And she's like, okay. And he's like, Juliet,
I'm sorry, I really am, but no, we do this now. And he's like, I have the harmonium pedals still. Would that work? And she's like, I don't need your fudging harmonium. I need a power washer, okay? He's like, what? She's like, it's a pump. And if it can send water, it can send air. Billings and Hank walk down a hall. Knox and Shirley come out. Knox, like, he kind of curses. And Hank says that they want to, do they want to tell him what the heck is going on? And Shirley says that they didn't have a choice, okay? And Billings like, you didn't have a choice? Shooting something up the stairs? And she's like, we need to get people on our side. We can't win this fight alone. And he's like, you could have gotten someone killed. And Knox like, it wasn't designed to hurt anyone. We just needed to send a message. Hank's like, what was the message? We're insane down here? Shirley's like, no, an actual message. And Hank's like, I read it. It's the only thing people are going to care about is that those a-holes from Greasetown turned the power off. And she's like, and turn it back on. And Knox is like, if either of you have a better idea, we'd love to hear it. So then they're like, we're not your allies. We're the sheriff's department. And then Knox like, then how about you do your job and find out who's poisoned our food? And she's like, or does that seem like you're being too helpful to us? McLean is brought into this room. She's been blindfolded, or maybe I don't know if she was always in that room, but she was blindfolded. So, they take out the blindfold and it's like bright, she's adjusting to it. Bernard sits in front of her. He's like, I understand you won't speak to my head of security. And she's like, look at me. I'm ancient. I don't have time for the middleman. He's like, fair enough. So let's not waste any more of whatever time you have left. What can you tell me about the gunpowder and mechanical? And she's like, what happened to the people I came up with? Knox and Shirley walk? You put my mind at ease about those idiots, and I'll tell you exactly how much gunpowder you have to worry about. He stares at her for a bit, and then he's like, no. And he gets up and walks out of the room. But it's like, I don't know if he dropped something. The show is so friggin' dark. It's like I turn up the brightness, and I still sometimes can't see what's going on. Sims is like cooking for his kid. Camille comes out, and she's like, she asks the kid, how is he? And Sim's like, oh, he's fine. The kid's fine. Then she says to their son, this wasn't like the big blackout, a few weeks ago. This was just a teeny tiny glitch. And Sim's like, that's exactly what I told him. So she asks, like, well, what's that in your hand? And he shows her. He's holding the rubber duck Pez dispenser. And then she looks at Sims, and their kid's like, Daddy said in the before times people held on to it when things were scary. And he's like, that's right. And what else? It keeps them safe. So Camille's like, wow, sounds pretty special, huh? You're not hungry? He shakes his head. She's like, why don't you go to your room? So then after he leaves, she says to Sims, she's like, you gave him a relic? And Sim's like, it calmed him down. She's like, so he's not okay. And Sim's like, scared poopless, like the rest of the silo. She's like, people aren't just scared, Rob. They're impressed. It was dramatic. And now they're asking questions. And he's like, where's Bernard? She's like, IT, why? He's like, Edmondson clearly isn't up to the job, and Bernard needs to know we saved those raiders yesterday. Without us, without you, they could have taken the stairs to the top. Used that gunpowder in the doors to the outside instead of on some stunt. Bernard needs my help. She's like, you went to his office yesterday to try to talk to him. He knows that. Has he reached out to you? And he's like, no. She's like, what are you thinking? She's like, I'm thinking that they have a point, that their message said to look to IT. The power everywhere else was out except for IT. I was there. Bernard came running back, and then the lights in IT went out. I think he turned them off because he was afraid people would see that they were on. And Sim's like, I know you're not defending the rebels right now. She's like, no, of course not. But they put the pressure on Bernard. And he's like, all the more reason for me to go talk to him. She's like, if you go to him, you're doing him a kindness. If you wait for him to come to you, you're doing business. Juliet is tying some hose, doing some stuff. Solo comes in and, okay, after you plug the power cord into the pump, you pull on the escape line and this little bell is going to ring. She's like, okay. He's like, it's going to tell me that it's okay to, and she's like, to plug it into IT power, and then you turn on the pump, then I'm going to attach the escape line to the winch, and I'm going to reel you in just like a fish. But this is important, okay? He's like, I can't reel you in all at once. We got to go slow. This thing called the bends, yeah? After I read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I went on this whole ocean kick. It turns out if you're deep underwater and you come up too fast, all these bubbles start building up in your joints and it can make you really sick. It can even kill you. She's like, what? He's like, yeah, that's why you got to come up slow. And she's like, well, what if I don't come up slow? Then you're dead. She's like, what? But if you feel bad, you could go back down under, but you got to go at least 20 feet. And she's like, and do what? You just have to hang there until you don't feel like you're dying anymore, I guess. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. No, I'm not going to do that. You do that. And he's like, what? She's like, this is your silo, so you save it. But you're the engineer. And she's like, you seem to know exactly what needs to be done. No, but I can't. And she's like, why? Why can't you? Are you scared? Because I'm scared. So why are you making me do it, huh? Look, because I'm the head of IT. Silo 17 is my priority. And she's like, you're not the head of IT. Stop. You're not even solo. He's like, please, I'm the last one left. I'm a failure. If I go in the water, I'll die. I'm a fudge up. You're not. Come on, do it, please. Will you do it? You can help save the whole silo. You can help me from ruining everything. Please. And she's like, fudge. Walker's in her workshop. She finds a picture of McLean, and she like tosses it in frustration. And she like shattered like the glass in the frame. Bernard speaks, this morning, the rebels launch an assault on our silo. You all deserve to be commended for keeping the peace and doing so without the assistance of radio communication. I made the decision to shut down the radios during a conversation with Sheriff Billings last night. It is my belief that Paul Billings has been taken hostage and is being forced to say the things he said. No doubt this will be cleared up when the rebellion is over. And people are looking around like in disbelief, like, yeah, right? And Sheriff Billings returns to the up top where he belongs. Till then, all radio communication throughout the silo remains disabled. Then this lady from the sheriff's, keep forgetting her name. She was like the one secretary or whatever. And she holds up the note. She's like, what does this mean? IT lies to us? She's like, I heard that the power stayed on in IT while the rest of the silo was in the dark. And Bernard's like, mechanical controls where the power goes. They left it powered up for a few minutes to cast doubt on my department and on me. Make no mistakes, we are under attack. Because of this, all things rebellion related will be handled by Judicial. Your job, as always, is to keep the peace on your levels. Judicial will take care of everything else. That is all for now. Thank you for your service. And there's clearly some doubt. So then there's one dude down below. He says he doesn't know why he was brought in to see Billings and Hank. Hank says, sure you do. It's like a little bite to refresh your memory. And there's like poison food. He's like, I had nothing to do with poisoning the food. And Hank tosses down a metal tin. I don't know what that was. He's like, now here's the thing, Martin. It's like, if you didn't poison the food supply, who did? He's like, I don't know who the other listeners are, I swear. Billings like, he swears, Hank. And he's like, yeah, I believe him. Do you? Billings like, leaning towards yes. But Hank's like, but I also think Martin here may be able to tell us a little bit more. And if he helps us, maybe we won't tell everyone that he's been ratting them out to Judicial this whole time. He's like, okay, there's a place where someone leaves notes for us in the scavenge room. One of the collection bins has a hollow handle, but I don't know who leaves the notes either. Billings like, are we getting to the helpful part soon? Or then he's like, so there was a note in there today, an order. And Billings like, what kind of order? So Shirley's talking to Knox. She's like, I think we need to consider what we'll do if we're in this alone. We need a backup plan. And he's like, are you going to tell me why you kissed me? And she's like, I didn't kiss you. You kissed me. But I think she did kiss him. And he's like, and my point is, we need to be prepared. Something big. And she's like, why are you looking at me that way? And Hank and Billings walk in. They're like, sorry to interrupt. And Billings like, we need to take you and Knox into custody. And Knox like, are we doing this again? And Hank's like, we're not here to arrest you. We just talked to a listener. There is a plot to kill you. Bernard says to Edmondson, make sure we don't have any problems with the deputies. And he's like, I will, sir. Did you get anywhere with McLean? He's like, nowhere. But even if she did talk, we wouldn't be able to rely on the information. Where are we on the warrant to search supply? And Edmondson's like, do we need one? The pack says that this falls under emergency powers. He's like, of course I don't need one. But I want one to maintain at least an appearance of order. So again, do you have my warrant? And he's like, Judge Sims has not signed off on it. And Bernard's like, why not? And Adam's like, he sent word. He wants to speak to you first in his chambers. So at the other silo, the pump is ready. Juliet asked Solo if he's finished with the boots. And he said he put weights in them, just like she asked. So that should keep her on her feet. And then he's like, in the before times, they used to do this thing called swimming, where they would pull with their arms and kick with their legs and move through the water, just like a fish, except fish don't have arms or legs, but
But they also figured out a way of seeing underwater. They figured if they looked through glass, it wouldn't be so blurry. So I made you these. Surprise. I made them out of welder's goggles. And she's like, great, thanks. So then she gets in this big like platform bucket or whatever that's attached to the winch. And he's like, how long are you going to stay mad at me? And she's like, if the people in my silo die. And she's like, just check the lines and make sure the power washer's running. So she puts on the goggles and she's lowered and she turns on the headlamp. Bernard barges into Sim's office. His secretary's like, I'm sorry, sir, I tried, but he wouldn't wait. And he's like, that's okay. Shirley, I think her name is Shirley. And he's like, you don't understand how this works, do you? I assign you this position, this promotion, because I never wanted to see your face again. There are no more conversations between us, no discussions. You sign what I tell you to sign. You just sit behind a desk. You pretend to have power, and then you go home. That's it. That's the rest of your life. Now get out your rubber stamp and give me my fudging search warrant. Sims looks at a sheet of paper. No. I gave you a decade of my life, my loyalty, my faith. The problems I've solved for you, you don't think I paid a price for that? And why? Because I trusted you. I thought we had an understanding that you'd make me your shadow. Bernard's like, I did want you to be my shadow, Robert. And then I never really got around to it, did I? Deep down, I must have had reservations. And then finally, I realized what it was. You're very good at solving problems, but you lack curiosity. And that's something the head of IT must have. And therefore, something that IT shadows must have. It's something my old shadow had and something my new shadow has. You made Lucas Kyle your shadow? Glad you have such a strong team at your side. Lucas Kyle, Admonson, but the list ends there. You lost a sheriff. Every deputy on duty heard Billings undermine you. How long till you lose entire department and judicial? Graffiti on the stairs, in the up top no less? And you didn't pay someone to do that. And I think he tossed the warrant in the trash. He's like, that's not part of the plan, is it, Bernie? And we both know that Admonson is useless. You had no idea about the gunpowder, did you? Because he doesn't know what to look for. The only reason he was able to save those raiders yesterday was because of me and Camille. Now, you got to be wondering, what else am I missing? I'll tell you, you're running out of allies and you're running out of moves. And then Bernard's like, what are you missing, Rob? After you put me in a position where I had no choice but to take the life of a woman I had some affection for, we both agreed that the two people coming to meet her from Mechanical would be blamed for her death. And then they got away. Now, your wife may have helped save those raiders yesterday, but she's also the reason those fugitives made it safely back to the down deep. But you knew that already, didn't you, considering how close the two of you are? And he walks out of the office, so he didn't get his warrant. Hank goes to Francis' apartment, so that's Patrick's niece, and so Patrick's in there, and Billings' wife is tending to him. So Hank says that they have a rat problem down there, and he's hoping she'd be able to help a bit more than Marty, whatever his name is. And she's like, "Oh, why's that?" He's like, "Come on, Francis. We both know the kind of company you keep. Somebody tried to poison this food supply. It's only going to get worse. This is serious." And she's like, "Oh, it's serious." And then to Patrick, her uncle, she's like, "Do you hear that? It's serious." He's like, "Oh, it sounds serious." And she's like, "Seriously, Hank, if you think I know any rats, you can fudge off." And she closes the door. Juliet descended underwater. She looks around as she goes with her light. And then I guess she reaches the bottom part. She gets off the platform thing, ties a rope to a railing. So Hank returns to the station. He just tells Billy no. Shirley and Knox are sitting in an open cell, and she says that she's like, "I told you that Francis was a waste of time." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess yes, you did." So Billings goes to a file cabinet, and he's like, "What are you looking for?" He says that he knows the listeners get notes in the scavenging room, so they just need a list of all people who have access. So he tells them it's the next drawer down. Shirley talks to Knox about sending messages, that the people sending messages to kill them. So she wants to send messages back, and he's like, "We already used gunpowder, to send something up." And she's like, "Well, if we had enough of it, we could send you." And he asks if she ever thought that they'd want her dead because, she's such a pain in the butt. So she goes to hit him, but he catches her hand or whatever. Walker comes in and is like, "Oh, you two look like you're having fun." And they both let go of each other. Hank asks, he's like, "What can we do for you?" And she tells him that they can, can they tell her about judicial seclusion? And Billings, because Billings worked there, he says he worked in judicial, yes. And Shirley says that, she's like, "This isn't going to help." And Billings says that very few people in judicial even know about it, let alone have access to it. And he's like, I know people who went into seclusion and usually didn't come out. I know that Shirley's right. This line of questioning won't lead you to anywhere good. McLean is in a fortress. There's no way. And Walker's like, can I at least get a message to her? And Billings like, they're not allowing porters anywhere near the barricades. And she's like, well, you could radio one of your friends. You could call in a favor. And Hank's like, you heard anything on your radio today, Walk? And she's like, no, why? It's like, the mayor shut it down because he didn't like the way the sheriff here was, what the sheriff here was saying. She's like, then send a computer message. And Shirley says they shut those down too. And Walker's like, 25 years ago, I didn't do enough. That's how I lost her in the first place. I'll be damned if I don't do enough this time. And she walks out. Knox like, come on, Walk. Knox asks if there's anyone else on the other side of the barrier that they can trust enough to get a note to. And Billings like, about judicial seclusion? No. So Lucas reads, he's like, show me at bash again. I don't know what at bash is. And he's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Go back to the original. He's like, what if they aren't letters? Show me everything about numeric ciphers. And there's lots of files. Juliet moves about the floor. She goes in this room. She pries open this hatch. She connects the cord. At the police station on the other side, they're looking through files. Kathleen, Billings' wife, comes in. She's, because she was with Patrick. She says that after they left, Frances said that she had to go somewhere. And she's like, I'm pretty sure she was lying. So I followed her to the cafeteria. She's like, things are getting out of hand. And Knox says to the sheriff's like, no offense to either one of you, but it's already out of hand. It's like, you're going to need someone they might actually listen to. Juliet tugs on a rope. The bell rings by Solo. He plugs something in. Power turns on. Juliet hits a lever, so there's this light that goes from red to green, and the machine starts working. At the cafeteria, Maeve, the lady in charge of food, she's holding out a big knife. She's telling the mob, she's like, keep back. Hank and Billings arrive. They yell that, she tried to kill us. And she's like, I didn't. She's like, I swear. She's like, ask them. And Knox yells, it's true, that Maeve told them about that the food was poisoned. And Maeve calls Frances. She's like, you're a crazy witch. So Maeve must have accused her and got all these people riled up. Hank says, it was nice of you to make sure nobody got hurt. And Maeve's like, what? Then Hank puts his hands up. He's like, how's your mom these days, Maeve? Like, the meds, they were pretty scarce before, but since the blockade, I can't imagine things have been easy. And Maeve slowly lowers the knife. She's in medical, above the blockade. And Hank slowly takes the knife out of her hands. And she's like, I had to. If I didn't do what they said, and Frances is like, you were afraid they would do something to her. And Maeve's like, I didn't have a choice, but I made sure nobody got hurt. Billings like, what about the kill order on Knox and Shirley? And she's like, they told me to plant that note. They said it would upset people, turn them against each other. And Hank's like, well, I guess it worked. And then she's like, please don't kill me. I'm one of you. And Shirley like, that still means something. And Knox like, we're not going to kill you. We're not going to send you to the mines like they do up top. We're going to give you some tough jobs right here in your home. We're going to give you poop for a little while, remind you of who you are. We're going to make sure your mom is okay. And you'll never turn your back on mechanical again, will you? And she's like, no, never. Lucas comes into Bernard's office. Is like, it's a book cipher. The letters weren't letters, they were numbers. So each one corresponds to the appearance of a word on a specific page of a specific book. And I think the page is number 77, because 7 is the only number that Quinn used in a portion of his message that wasn't in code, and he used it twice. And Bernard's like, did you test your theory against the books in the Legacy? And Lucas is like, yes, there weren't any matches in the Legacy. So Bernard's like, then you're wrong. And Lucas like, I'm not wrong. All it means is that Quinn didn't use a book from the Legacy to create his code, which makes sense because he wanted the code to be solved. Only 2 people have access to the vault, to those books. Bernard's like, so he used a relic, a book that is out in the silo. He's like, exactly. We need a book that is over 140 years old, maybe even something that belonged to Quinn himself. Do you know anyone in the silo who might have such a relic? He's like, one person knew. He opens his desk. He's like, I have the book that you can start with. He hands him Meadows' copy of The Wizard of Oz. Camille comes home. Sim's sitting in the dark. She's like, oh, you're going to strain your eyes sitting like that. She's like, you spoke to Bernard. He told you about the 2 mechanicals I helped get away. You had just been sworn in as judge. You were still trying to win Bernard back over, which was smart. But making friends, that's smart too. He's like, so you went behind my back? She's like, no, I was trying to protect you. I knew that Bernard would find out one way or another. He needed to think I was taking matters into my own hands. Bernard couldn't think you had anything to do with them escaping, and he still doesn't. He's like, you want to make friends with the rebels, Camille? You know how dangerous they are? And she's like, and Bernard isn't? We don't know how this is going to end. So until we do, we play both sides. He's like, yeah, but we don't play each other. What you tried to do at breakfast, tried to keep me from talking to Bernard, from finding out, we make moves together or not at all. No more secrets. And she's like, no more secrets. Juliet moves to the rope that she tied. She rings the bell. The rope starts going. It slips out of her hands. So that was the rope was supposed to pull her up. And then the platform thing just like falls, and her oxygen is not working. So she takes off her boots. She starts like climbing up the hose or something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like starting to get stressful. Walker's trying to figure out a way to get a message up. Then she turns on a camera and she stands in front of it, and then she unplugs it. So the camera in her room or something like that. Juliet continues pulling herself up. And then she just starts kicking and waving her arms. And then she goes up, goes up, goes up. She finally reaches the surface. She's like gasps, she splashes. But then she's still like a few levels from where Solo is. Bernard's sitting in his office. He has a drink. He gets up, leaves. Admonson comes up to him in the hall. He says that the camera in Martha Walker's workshop went live for 30 seconds. So they're trying to get it back online. And he's like, how was it reactivated in the first place? So Admonson's like, we believe she turned it on. And why would she do that? In the surveillance room, he takes her. He's like, I used the cameras to track McLean the last few days to see if we could figure out how she moved the gunpowder. No luck there. But then I saw this. It's from when you had mechanical deputy take her and McLean into custody while you gave your speech to the silo. And so we see McLean like reach for Walker's hand. So that's kind of silly because they're scared or whatever. But then he's like, I checked the records. They divorced 25 years ago. So that was smart thinking. And Bernard's like, but they still mean something to each other. This is very good work, Mr. Admonson. Now, this last part, I'm not really sure what happened. So she makes her way up, and she's calling out Solo's name because it's like, did he sabotage this? Like, what happened? And why did her breathing thing not work? So she gets up to the place. He's not there, but then she sees blood, and then this is where I don't understand, because then she kind of like looks up or whatever, and something happened. So clearly there must be someone else in the silo besides them. So someone must have attacked him. And I don't really know what happened at the end. What she was supposed to be looking at. I put it on my laptop, and then I turned up the brightness. I went to like a dark room just to try to see, okay, what is happening here? And I couldn't tell. But there's only a few more episodes left. So, yeah, I think 2 more episodes, 3 more. 3 more episodes, and then that's it. I was just like so stressed out, and yeah. So, I think I need to I need to go back to the book, because I was listening to the audiobook and then I stopped it once it reached like the end of season 1. So I think I need to start listening to more of that, see if I can pick up on anything. And now the movie feature is Nosferatu. And I enjoyed this movie. So surprise, surprise, this is a movie, the old-timey days. And I actually enjoyed it. Normally, as you're probably well aware, because this is 1838, I think it was. So that's pretty old-timey. I don't like the old-timey stuff. I don't know what it is. It just, not that it bores me, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe because it just seems so stiff. It's just so, everything's so not primitive, but it's just kind of cold and kind of limiting. I don't know. I can't quite place my finger on it. But this movie. So it's I should have watched the original Nosferatu again, because it's been, I haven't seen it in years, decades. I barely remember. So I don't know how similar this is to the original. It's a remake of a 1922 silent film, which was an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Okay, but there's like so many good people in here. So Bill Skarsgård, which you can't even tell it's him. Nicholas Hoult. I don't know if I've ever thought this before or said this before, but he kind of reminds me of like a young James Marsden. And I feel like, because James Marsden usually always plays like the good, down on his luck
not necessarily victim, but like things don't go his way, and that's the case here because it's his wife is like cursed by this vampire. So it's like poor Nicholas Hoult, and so that's why it's going to be interesting where in when he plays Lex Luthor, he's going to be this evil scumbag. So that we have that. Lily Rose Depp. I'm trying to remember if I've actually seen her in anything. I don't think I have, but she did a good job in here. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he was good. There's so many people. Willem Dafoe was really great in here. So you got this amazing cast. And I'm really curious. Let's see, what was the budget for this? Do we know? The budget was only $50 million. So that's pretty crazy. Box office. Oh, this doesn't look so good. Let's see. It was projected $25 million for 5-day opening weekend after making $11.5 million on its first day. Weekend projections were raised to $42 million. Okay. So that's still not great. $42 million, it's almost the budget. It's first week. Hopefully it'll pick up. The thing is, it kind of felt like it was a long movie. It was just like 2 hours and, I don't think it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes, something like that. But at some points it felt a little long. But despite that, it didn't like drag on too much. So like I said, I was pretty captivated, and there were parts that were kind of getting me a little antsy or whatever. And I think part of it is like, man, and maybe this is part of the other reason why I hate old-timey stuff. I was like, I would hate to live in that time. It's horrible because you're just so limited. You're so helpless at times. So like it starts off, Nicholas Hoult, he's I don't know what he has a job like as not like necessarily a real estate agent, but like whatever this he's trying to get in better with his firm with the because he's just like kind of starting off. He just got married, so he wants to get some financial security and stuff like that. So his boss agrees to he's okay, go to this old count dude's place because he wants to move to our town. And I'm going to sell him like this old house because he wants, he specifically said he wants this old place. It's supposed to be like haunted or whatever, but it's I guess it's worth a lot. No one wants to buy it, so he's going to sell it to him. But the only thing is, he's supposedly like infirm and he can't travel, so Nicholas Holt's going to have to go to him with the papers and everything to get him to sign and do all that. But there's a little something more going on to this than we find out later. But the other thing is, so his wife, Lily Rose Depp, apparently, it starts off. This is the other thing I don't like. Apparently, when she was young, she prayed for someone to love her, like a spirit to love her or something like that. And then I guess she was attacked by a vision or something like that. So this is somehow how she became attached to Nosferatu or something like that. So it seems like, okay, if she made this, she made a prayer or whatever when she was a kid, that's not fair. But when Nicholas Hoult says he has to go, she's like, she's having these visions every once in a while, and I think she's kind of had treatments or whatever, so she like really doesn't want him to go, but he's like, we have to do this and blah, 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 and stuff like that. So, she's just very nervous and cautious and stuff like that, but, he's got to go. And so what does he do? When he leaves, again, this is like 1838 or whatever it was, he goes off on, at first like, oh, he's going to ride a carriage, right? Someone's going to take him there. No, he rides on a horse by himself. And going, I don't even remember how far it was. The map was pretty big, so he's definitely, I don't even know how many days, journey this is. But at some points, he's just like going through the woods, and there's no town or anything like that. He's like walking the horse and stuff like that. He finally reaches this town, and I guess there's like a bunch of gypsy there. And it's when he arrives there, it's kind of unsettling because they're all speaking some other language that I don't even know if he arrives, because so he gets to Transylvania basically, and they all these people come up to him and I don't know if they're like they think he has money because he's a stranger and they're going up to him or something like that. And there's people playing music and they start getting in his face and then he reaches like the end. There's like this tavern or I guess a hotel or something like that. this guy standing there starts laughing at him, and other people start laughing at him, and it's just like, what is going on? And when he entered there, he hands the guy his horse, the tie up. So it's just like, what is going on here? Why is everyone laughing? And he just said he wants a room. He's like, I'll pay double because he's trying to go whatever. And then he's compelled. He hears a noise at night. He goes out in the woods and he sees something, which I won't go into that. And then finally, the next day he wakes up, like everyone's gone, like the whole town, no one's there. His horse is gone, so he has to walk like the rest of the way. And I think it was just like a day's walk, or he has to walk, or he goes there, and then this carriage just comes out of nowhere and picks him up. And so he gets there, he's late, and he's brought to this like big dining room. It is like so dark in there. There's a big fire going, and there's like some candles or whatever, but it's just like so dark, so you can't even see the Count's there. And the Count wants to get the business and stuff like that. And then this is where he's going to get his hooks in him and stuff like that. And it's just, again, because it's like you're just so helpless, because he wants to leave after the business is done, but he doesn't. He's like, no, you're gonna whatever, eat or drink or do something, and then he starts manipulating, doing stuff, and it's just. It's just so bad, and this is I don't know if this is why I don't like old timey stuff, but it's just like, man, what do you do? Because like the next day he wakes up like he doesn't even know what happened, how he ended up in his room, and then there's like no one around. It's like, how does he get out of there? The doors are locked, and so he needs to get back home, and and it's just. It gets from there, then the Count, Nosferatu, or whatever, he wants to get there too. And so he's going to travel in a coffin with, because he has to have your dirt that you're entombed in or whatever's. And so he's going to sail there to like beat Nicholas Hoult. And it's just, but it was really good. So let me say, I feel like I'm spoiling too much, and I shouldn't spoil all that. I mean, and you probably know the story, so he wants to get to, because he's got this connection to her. Oh, because Nicholas Hoult also had a locket from that his wife, that Lily Rose Depp, gave him. She cut like a piece of her hair, stuck in this locket or whatever, and he's like, he smells it, and he's just like such a creep, the Count. And so Willem Dafoe ends up being like this scholar who was kind of questionable, was kind of like kicked out of stuff because he kind of was backing like questionable things, and so he actually isn't very knowledgeable about like Nosferatu and all that, because they don't call the Count Nosferatu, they don't know, but he thinks that the curse upon this wife, the visions she's had, because she starts having she's like sleepwalking. She's staying with Nicholas Holt's friend, Aaron Taylor Johnson, his wife, and two daughters, and she's like having these visions and sleepwalking, and so that's when they bring in Willem Dafoe, because he's supposed to be an expert on the cult and stuff like that, and so he thinks he knows what's going on, and I've said way too much about the movie, but it's just the whole way it's done, and there's obviously like some sort of filter, so it's like kind of this gloomy. Everything is like looks gloomy. And everything just that, whether it's, I don't know how to do the sets, and I don't know what's practical or what's CG. It just, everything looks really good, and it just feels like just like almost like cold and gloomy, and so I feel like they just did a good job with that. I don't know how. Let's see, how do people think about this? Okay, Rotten Tomato, critics 86%, so that's good, because usually critics are not very happy with anything. The popcorn meter, the audience, 77%. So that's good, because people can be picky or whatever. Critics' consensus: marvelously orchestrated by director Robert Eggers, Nosferatu is a behemoth of a horror film that is equal parts repulsive and seductive. So that's the thing, this you have to call it a horror movie, but it's not like your typical horror movie. It's not like Smile 2 or these like creepy slasher things. I mean, this is more creepy, even though it is like a vampire movie. It's more like creepy, just the vibe, the essence, and it's a little deeper, it's, I don't even know how to say that, if that makes sense, but there's definitely like a different feel to it, whatever. Let's see, some
Associated Press. This updated 1922 silent vampire classic will chill you to the bone, but it may not terrify you. So yeah, I mean, it's not like, it's more like upsetting than it is scary type of thing. But let's see. Wall Street Journal, Nosferatu is best seen without distractions in a movie theater, preferably on a night of howling winds and lashing rain. It fully lives up to the subtitle of the 1922 original, A Symphony of Horror. The Atlantic, well, I'm not going to read all these, but yeah, it seems like most people liked it. Audience reviews, darkest vampire movie I've ever seen. Thumbs up, 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 up. 5 thumbs up. Someone says, waste of money, skip it. And then there's a good movie. Orlok was pretty menacing. The characters were well written. The dialogue was good. The cinematography was great. So yeah, there you go. Just terrible. The vampire may well have been played by Danny DeVito because there was zero facial expressions. Whatever, dude. I'm assuming that's a dude. So yeah, it's good. It's creepy. It's not like, pee your pants scary, but I think they did a good job with it and everything. And yeah, so where did they film this? Czech Republic, to play Count Orlok, Skarsgård lost a significant amount of weight and worked with the Icelandic opera singer to lower his vocal range. Yeah, because at first I was like, wait, because I avoided as much as this is possible, so I didn't know who was playing what. And when we first I had no idea who Bill Skarsgård was playing. And when you hear him talk, I mean, I had no idea it was him. I didn't even know throughout the whole movie. I mean, well, you can kind of, whatever. No spoilers. But yeah, so it doesn't sound anything like him. I mean, because he spent up to 6 hours a day having prosthetic makeup applied. It was like conjuring pure evil. It took a while for me to shake off the demon that had been conjured inside of me. So yeah, he keeps doing these dark roles. So I mean, I don't know what else more there is to say about it. I mean, it's good. It's creepy. It's it's what maybe a period piece. It's dark and gloomy. But I think they did a good job with it, and I do recommend it. It may not be for everyone because some people might find it a little too dreary, but I just feel like they did a good job with it, and it's definitely worth seeing unless you absolutely don't want anything to do with this. So I'm glad I saw it. Like I said, since I didn't know anything about it, I was like, is this going to be any good? And I feel like it came out of nowhere because I didn't hear about it. I feel like it was just like a few weeks back. I'm like, wait, what? This is coming out Christmas Day or Christmas time? It's like, yeah, that's, great for the family, right? But, yeah, so I hope it's successful enough. Not that they're not going to do a sequel or anything like that. But it was a good movie. And even though it's a remake, I still feel like it's warrant, it should be successful because they may have took a gamble on it, even though somehow I don't understand how this is only $50 million budget. And then you got like some like Gladiator 2, which is like 200 million or whatever crazy amount. So yeah, I'd say bravo, good job with this. And yeah, so that was it. Go see it, unless it's not your cup of tea. But hopefully this podcast is your cup of tea, but and the tea is now empty because that is going to be this week's episode. Oh, Lord. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter and be awesome by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I'm going to do an off of mine this week. And yeah, sometimes talk about comics and other things like that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What's going to happen next week? I don't think there's anything. I'm trying to think if there's anything coming out, but I think what I'm going to see is the Bob Dylan movie, the Timothée Chalamet movie. I like Bob Dylan, and I'm not like the biggest, like huge, number one fan or anything like that. And I like Timothée Chalamet. I think he's, very versatile actor, and he always does a good job. So I'll probably see that, and then we'll have more Silo.
we'll have more Star Wars, more Creature Commandos, and possibly, I don't know how much Squid Games we'll have. And I'm trying to think. I don't remember if I talked about the first one, the first season or not. So I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't know if doing. I feel like doing a recap of that would just be weird, because it's just like I feel like that's not something that should be spoiled. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll just give like impressions and not go into spoilers. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know because I have such a hard time not going into full detail. But we'll see. We'll see how much time I have, because I still have like report cards and stuff to do this week. But I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having some time off still. I hope you are spending time with friends and family. I hope you had whatever holidays you believe in, whatever holidays you celebrate. I hope you had a great time. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying healthy. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.